He's managed to get himself on the inside, but he's caught up on the curve. Shaun Allan, the outside special. We've had a huge crash. This can't be real.
I think he might have this job done finally. Dayne Warren gives him no space. He's in the wall. He's in the wall. Turn 4, he's taking out Bruce Dean as well.
Oh, big moment there. Stenberg on his roof. Big crash at turn 4. That is an unfortunate huge crash. Oh, it's a huge wiggle on. Oh, he was clear.
A very good evening to you, wherever you're watching this broadcast around the country or indeed the world, and welcome to the Bend Motorsport Park for the second week in a row. My name is Stairs. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome back Matt Dunlop to the commentary box. Good evening, Matty.
Good evening, Stairs, and good evening to all of our viewers watching wherever you may be. We are in round number 13. We're back at the Bend. We're racing around the West Circuit this time, as we saw our brethren in the main V8 Supercars game doing over the weekend, and we are here to emulate them with a couple of fantastic races coming up for you tonight.
We may well just crown a champion tonight. Dayne Warren is very, very close to clinching his first Automobilista Supercars Championship title, and that is the point standings as it is currently, with him leading Shaun Allan by 200 and... was it nearly 300 points? I can't do maths. I shouldn't have done it. But actually, this doesn't take into account the drop round, Matty, which means the gap's actually 394 points as opposed to whatever the gap is there on screen. So that will certainly have an effect on this championship, as Dayne Warren and Kurt Stenberg both have 0 rounds, but Shaun Allan's worst round all the way back in Adelaide with 120 points, so he will actually drop those 120 points unless he has a worse round tonight.
So it's going to make it pretty hard to sort of count the results as we go, but we will do our best here. The drop round only applies to these first 13 rounds, and it's the worst round for each of these drivers is dropped before Bathurst. So it gives the drivers a little bit of a chance to sort of ease up on their schedule, not have to commit to the entire season. They can miss out on one race and still be competitive. Speaking of points, these are the team's points we've got right now in front of us, don't we, Stairs?
Yes, and Race on Oz all but wrap that one up. As long as it's, as long as they still lead by, what is it, about 500 points at the end of tonight, they should be fine. So unless both drivers, DNF and the ZB guys, both win and come second in each race, I think that one is going to go the way of Race on Oz.
Yeah, they look to be an absolute shoo-in for the championship, and we're just looking at one of their drivers, Shaun Allan, one of the only guys who can threaten Dayne Warren for the Drivers' Championship, just cutting some laps around now in practice. He's only 6th fastest so far, with not too much longer to go in the session. The 1 hour 16 up in the top corner there is a little bit misleading. This practice session will indeed be finishing in just under 25 minutes or so. Still plenty of time for these guys to put some more laps on the board. Of course, we've got 12 drivers having posted times, of course, but we should be seeing a few more than that in the session as time goes on.
Yeah, Shaun Allan, one of 2 drivers to win last week at the Bend in the longer form of the circuit that we visited. He took the opening race, and then it was Ethan Warren who took the second 2 wins. And that's the first time, I believe, all year that we've seen Dayne Warren not win a race in a night that he's been present for.
That's exactly right. And because also of his second place in the second race at Townsville, it means that he's had 4 second place finishes in a row, and that's his longest streak of non-winning finishes all season, and that even includes when he missed the Darwin round. So he's on, for his standards at the very least, a little bit of a drop of form, and he's looking to get back on the top rostrum as soon as he possibly can. Keep in mind, with that drop round factored in, the gap in points between Dayne Warren and Shaun Allan is 394 points. There's 300 points available tonight here at the Bend, and there's another 300 points available in a few weeks' time when we go to Bathurst. So as long as Dayne Warren can finish this round with a gap of at least 300 points on Shaun Allan, he will be the 2020 Automobilista Supercars champion.
And did you know, Matt, that it is his 21st birthday today?
I did not. Happy birthday to you, Dayne Warren. Let's hope you get some really good results as a nice present for you, mate.
Yeah, things would have to go spectacularly bad for him to drop the 94 points to Shaun Allan. That would force the championship to go on to the final round in Bathurst. So, for his sake, wishing him the best. For our sake, though, would love to see that go down to the final round.
Yeah, it'd certainly make it interesting from a commentator's perspective. But there's been a bit of discussion about this in the main Supercars Championship as well, because Scott McLaughlin wrapped up his title, of course, at the second Bend round. And a lot of commentators are saying it was a great thing for the sport because it meant that it took all the pressure off the drivers, championship-wise, for Bathurst, which meant they can put their all into just winning Bathurst and putting on a great race. And if Dayne Warren is able to clinch the championship tonight, then I guess that frees up that opportunity as well, and it means there's no championship pressure from himself or Shaun or Kurt or whoever find themselves in the upper echelons there. So either way, we're going to have some fantastic battles for the rest of the season.
Speaking of Bathurst, they did make an announcement during the week that the Bathurst race would be held on Sunday the 1st of November, but there will be a revision to that. This is breaking news. Because V8 Scops have been forced to move their Bathurst 1000 as a result of the NRL Grand Final clashing with their original date, we have been forced to move the Automobilista Supercars Championship Bathurst 1000. Now this is still penciled in. It's going to move one day earlier to Saturday the 31st of October, with qualifying taking place the night before on the Friday. But that is still very much unofficial. Keep an eye out on the Apex Rear Wing and the Automobilista Supercars Championship Facebook pages for updates on those details. We are going to be bringing you a bumper broadcast that night with myself, yourself, Madbird, Bagsy and Michael Zalavari all joining us in the commentary box.
The gang is all going to be here, and I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to set up my bedroom/office/studio with a whiteboard and all sorts of other implements to make my broadcast work. I'm sort of trying to plan out what sort of role I'm going to have. Maybe I'll be like Simon Crayfire in the MotoGP, just chiming in every now and then when I've got a clever thought. I don't experience those very often, but when I do, they can offer me pretty good material. Oh, thank you very much. But no, seriously, I can't wait for Bathurst, whatever Datamate 4-1. It's going to be really fantastic. Gives us a good chance to flex our prowess as commentators, and also a great chance for these drivers that we're seeing on track at the moment to really show what they can do over a mammoth 6.5 hour or so 1,000 kilometer journey. We're just watching Alex Cattle, who's been one of the real journeymen this season, one of the few drivers to put in consistent finishes all season long. I think he's almost he's on a great run of points finishes since round 7, and his best finish so far this year I think is a P6, which he got last time out at the Bend, which was a great result from him in race 1. Hopefully he can do a little bit better. Mind you, he's going 8th in the practice standings at the moment, and I think that may be the practice session wrapping up, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think they're just resetting it. We still have about 20 minutes left until qualifying is scheduled to start. So watch them reset the server, and that'll be the start of their tyre allocation for the night. They get 5 tyre sets per race weekend, and that includes the practice session, the qualifying, and then the race itself. So they have to ration those out throughout the course of the night. So a total of 10 available for the night, but 1 for the first race, 1 set of 5 for the first race, and then another 5 sets for the second race. Just to finish off, Matty, on that, we're talking about Bathurst before. They have thrown open the invite to anyone who wants to jump in. If you want to team up with a friend and join, the details are available on their Facebook group, Automobilista Supercars Championship Competitors, and also you can sign up on their website, asc.rocksolidmates.com. The details there on your screen at the moment. We would love to see a packed bumper grid for that race.
I was even considering jumping in myself, as a matter of fact. I'm not sure if I was telling you, Stairs, but earlier in the year, Hans Brunswick, who's been going quite well in the Super 2s and has made a couple of appearances here in ASC, asked me if I wanted to partner with him in the Bathurst 1000 at the end of the year. But unfortunately, I couldn't, because there wasn't enough room in this house for me to fit my sim rig. And because of COVID restrictions, I wasn't able to drive anywhere else to actually drive the car. So unfortunately, I've had to miss out on that one.
I hope Hans can find a partner.
I think he has. I'm not sure who he has found, but I remember seeing it pop up in the Discord, so I'm pretty sure he's found a partner, but I just have completely blanked on who it was as a matter of fact. But it is a great chance to test your mettle at Automobilista Supercars, of course, race alongside some of these best drivers you've been seeing in the field. A lot of these guys who you've seen tonight will be pairing up with one another, which means we'll be getting extra cars fielded from a lot of the Super 2 guys. We'll be seeing people from outside the regular Supercar ASC competition competing, as we're seeing David Nenadic scrubbing a lot of rubber off his tyres there, probably to save weight and feel like he's driving on 50-cent pieces a little bit there. But yeah, going to be a great field, going to be all sorts of drivers in the lineup, and it'll be a really, really great spectacle to watch.
David Nenadic was a driver who did well in last year's Bathurst with his teammate Zach Baker. They were a bit of a surprise packet for the race last year. They had a lot of race pace, and if the strategy had played out slightly different, they might have found themselves on the top of the rostrum there.
I've always considered the ZB Racing guys to be somewhat underdogs in this championship of the half season I've been watching, of course, as a commentator. But David Nenadic is always there, and as is Zach Baker, to pick up the pieces if something goes wrong up the front, and they can always be found in the upper echelons of the midfield at the very least. So very strong performers. They're able to keep the cars on the track when all else seems to be going wrong. So over a 6-hour race, I would definitely factor those guys in for a really strong performance again this year.
Not wrong, not wrong. I'll just answer a question in the live chat from Mark Needham, and backed up by Mr. D. Beachy, asking about the schedule tonight. What time is the race? Well, race 1 will get underway at 8:25. Now, these schedules always tend to blow out a little bit as a result of just the things that happen in the server. But 8:25 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time is the scheduled start for race 1. That'll be a 16-lap race, preceded by a 10-minute qualifying session. And then after that race, we will have another 10-minute qualifying session to determine the top 10 for a shootout. And then that will be for the start of race 2, which is scheduled for 25 minutes to 10. And that is a 32-lap race. So a bit of strategy we'll see in that second race.
It's always good to see. The tyre strategy has been pretty varied over these past few 2-race rounds that we've been seeing. A lot of drivers trying to make it work on a one-stopper with the hard tyres, Dayne Warren and Ethan Warren especially being proponents of that strategy. And a lot of other guys trying on the softs with the 2-stop strategy, and more often than not, they work out to be around about the same race time, and it ends up being a question of how well these drivers can manage those tyres over such periods of time. And it really is a great way to sort of test these drivers' abilities strategically, not just in terms of race pace, but also in tyre management stairs.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've seen it have an effect on these races. It's probably one of the things that's been a bit of a stumbling block for Dayne Warren, is these strategic races that maybe they've caught him off guard here and there, and Ethan Warren has been able to get the better of him, although he did have a bit of a strategic blunder in the first race of the Bend last week when the safety car came out and everyone took their compulsory pit stop under the safety car apart from Ethan, and that kind of destroyed his race because he then got involved in an incident trying to make his way back up through the pack. But definitely the mix of soft and hard tyre combinations we've seen over the last few rounds has really spiced up this championship.
So where are we at the moment with practice standings? Dayne Warren is currently leading the way with a 116.437 around this West Circuit. Is this the first time that ASC has raced on the West Circuit, Stans?
That's right, because we are emulating the real-life Supercars Championship, and as far as I know, they've never raced on the West Circuit either prior to last weekend.
So we don't really have any... Oh yeah, of course, the full circuit. Taylor and Ben was the first time they'd actually seen it in this championship, I think you were saying. So this will definitely be the first time they've raced on the West Circuit. So there's no real records or benchmark times to draw from, so I guess practice time is our best look at what is quick around here and what is not. So Dayne Warren on a 116.437. I think he's actually improved since I last looked at him. His brother Ethan Warren is just over a third of a second behind him, with Kurt Stenberg a whopping 1.2 seconds off the pace of those front two. So the Warren brothers are really taking to this track like a duck to water. Testing the track limits there is Ethan Warren of turn 6. Obviously, that was a big talking point in the Supercars main game with their driving standards observer Craig Baird. taking a deliberately lax attitude in policing it, very IndyCar style policing of track limits, which I think is a real good thing because there's obviously only so much you can do with the tarmac that's out there, and encouraging the drivers to get out there and use as much of it as possible. It plays into a driver's natural instinct to want to make as wide a circle as possible, and if they've all got the same track to race on, they're not being penalised for it. I say it's a great thing. So I think it's a pretty good way to police that corner. I'm not sure what Automobilista's track cut detection system thinks of it though.
Well, they get 5 track cuts for each race, so that will be, I guess, the determining factor in how much of a impact that has on the race. So 5 track cuts, and then on the 6th one they will be given a drive-through penalty, and that's something they would very much like to avoid, I should think.
You would think so, but it also depends on how the track is set up, of course, with the AIW file on the racing line, because that also determines what constitutes the track and what doesn't. So the designer of the track may well have extended those limits a little bit through turn 6 to make it a bit easier for drivers, but we'll wait and see how that plays out. We'll see what times get scrubbed off in qualifying, and of course who gets drive-through penalties for the infringements during the race. Hopefully not too many drivers, I would think. Steve Warwick is out on track at the moment. He's currently 9th in this practice session, just ahead of Brapp. One of two Warwicks who are currently participating. I think Colin is yet to set a time at the moment. But I think those two guys will be teaming up for a Bathurst tilt as well in the same car, but I'm not 100% sure. That's just speculation.
Well, sorry to interrupt you there, Matty, but the word back at Bathurst when we had a chat to Colin Warwick was that he would be teaming up with Ethan Warren like they did in last year's Bathurst 1000. So if that were to go ahead, that would be a pretty strong combination.
Pretty potent if you ask me. Of course, Colin Warwick doing quite well, scored another podium in the first race of the last round at the full circuit of the Bend. Followed up with a 5th, but DNF'd in the last race, unfortunately, due to an internet cutout, I think it was, for both Colin and Steve. So he's definitely fast at the Bend. Whether he can carry that pace onto the West Circuit is another question entirely. In terms of differences between this track and the one that we raced at last week, you're missing that massive multi-apex right-hander between turn 6 and turn 11, or whatever it is, the longest right-hand corner in the country. And we sort of just cut it off and we go straight back on that turn 6 hairpin. So it's a nice, short, little punchy circuit with a few street circuit characteristics, I would say, in terms of the corner profiles. But you still get some nice, fast-flowing corners as well. Bit of everything in this track.
We're on board with Alex Cattle. Do you want to take us around a lap there, Matty?
So this is turn 1, plenty of ample runoff on the outside there. You've got to see if you can keep the boot in going around that turn 2, keeping the car nice and stable before you jump on the brakes once again, flipping and flopping into the right-hander of turn 3. Open the throttle right up. You've got plenty of runoff there to use as you go through the slow kink that is turn 4, technically a turn, and then flick it left again for turn 5. Load that right-hand tyre front quite up nicely. Now, ordinarily, we would turn left here as we're seeing the cones there, but now we're jumping on the brakes, going a little bit further into the runoff, into turn 6 that we were talking about earlier with those extra track limits. Fast right-hand kink as we rejoin the main circuit through turn 7. Got to get the car lined up again through another flip-flop into turn 8, and then carry that speed through the elevation changes of turn 9. You bottom out a little bit there as you slowly crest through this right-hander at turn 10. Then we got a bit of a fast charge. First bit of straight section for a while since turn 5-6. Jump on the anchors again for turn 11. Clip that apex, very neatly done so far for Alex Cattle, and that's the tightest. That's probably a very good braking, passing opportunity actually in the latter stages. This is the final corner, not much of a 90-degree angle, so it might be hard to get some passing done there in the later stages of the lap, but that is a lap of the West Circuit of the Bend. So there's quite a few passing opportunities. Actually, turn 1, turn 6, turn 11 are probably some of the biggest, but as we saw in the Supercars main game, there's opportunities all over the track if you're good enough, if you're clever enough.
How much of a factor do you think that'll be where the track goes on and then to the right, where last week they were turning left at turn number 6? It's going to be a bit of an adjustment, I would have thought, certainly in those first few laps of practice to get out of that mindset of where you would brake last week versus this week.
Well, I think I saw Alex Cattle running onto the right-hand side of the track there. I'm not sure if that was a memory thing or just testing different lines there. But yeah, that'll be something the drivers will have to get used to, although it was, mind you, it was quite hard for me to pick where the corner actually was, where the original corner was, because I guess the cones do a pretty good job of masking it off and pointing you in the right direction you have to go. So I don't reckon it'll be too much work. Mind you, I'm not much of a driver myself, so I can't really speak in their mind, but I do anticipate that lap 1, turn 6, is going to be a very interesting part of the track. We'll probably see guys going 4 wide, maybe even a little bit more. You never know.
If you've just joined us, we're about 10 minutes away from getting underway and qualifying for race 1. If you're watching along, don't be afraid to jump in our live chat and make some predictions. Do you think Dayne Warren will pick up a win tonight on his 21st birthday? He was kept winless last week by his brother Ethan Warren and Shaun Allan, who took the I guess the biscuits, and Dayne Warren was left with not bad results. Second place in all 3 races off the back of second place in the final race in Townsville. So he's on a streak of second place finishes, 4 in a row.
He was still the highest scorer at that round. We don't really do things by round here, but he was the best performing driver throughout, even though he didn't get a single win, purely because of those second, because Shaun Allan, while he did manage a win and a third, he only got P6 in the last race, so there's a bit of a points differential between those two guys to the tune of 24 points that Dayne Warren was able to extend his lead over Shaun Allan in the championship. And now that lead is totaled at 394 when you factor in the worst dropped round. So that will only be a factor for Shaun Allan, of course, given that Dayne Warren and Kurt Stenberg have both already missed 1 round each, so they won't be dropping any rounds at all for the rest of the season. So, and of course, that doesn't factor in penalties, which haven't really been decided yet for Townsville and last week at the Bend, if there will be any penalties, of course, which I'm not 100% sure of. There's a little bit of interesting driving I saw last week, but I'm not sure how much of it is going to get penalised.
Yeah, well, we saw Dayne Warren didn't get off the line in the first race and got rear-ended by Thomas McMillan, which I think will probably get put down to a racing incident. Thomas would not have been expecting Dayne to not move at all from pole position. Dayne did not have it in gear, so that was a bit of a blunder on his side.
That might have been the most spectacular thing I've ever seen on the start of one of these Automobilista races, and not something I was expecting at all. But
something
Madbird got the prediction perfectly, didn't he?
He did. He picked it. If you scroll back 30 seconds from when that incident happened, he literally called that. And it's one of the things that it's going to go in my highlights of the year package. Because that was unbelievable.
I couldn't believe that. Do you reckon that's going to strike off his commentator's curse for good?
Well,
you'd hope so, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a curse, is it? Because it's basically calling it.
Yeah.
So it was a curse for Dayne and for Thomas McMillan. So I'm sure they wouldn't have been too appreciative of it. But he wasn't showering them in glory. It was kind of the opposite in that respect. So you're right, actually. Yeah.
So it's sort of a double curse, if you will, a double negative of the commentator's curse world. I'm sort of driving my brain crazy trying to think of analogies of how to make this work to explain it. Let's watch Dayne Warren for a second. I've even forgotten his name. Jeez. Bit of a slide out of turn 12. I've seen a lot of guys getting the back end out through turn 12. It's a good place to get the rear end out. A little bit of a bump here in the main straight. It almost looks like the cars get a little bit airborne, don't they?
Yeah, they do. There's that bump. I don't know if it's a bit of a problem with the geometry of the circuit, but it does look like they catch a bit of air as Dayne Warren catches a bit of grass there and spins round. So that's put pay to that lap. Let's watch Dayne Warren, you said.
Yep, let's watch him go straight off into the grass. There goes my commentator's curse, firing on all cylinders as soon as we start. Not even out of the first practice session.
Now, Kurt Stenberg, let's have a bit of a look at him. We've talked about him. He's still mathematically in with a shot of the championship, but realistically, it's probably not going to happen for him. He is the defending champion. He's been running the number 1 all year as a result of becoming the inaugural Automobilista Supercars champion last year. But he said to us before the year started, the number 1 has been a bit of a bogey number for him. He's been quite unlucky with the number 1, and wouldn't you know it, the very first round in Adelaide this year, he ended up not being able to take part because there was a storm at his house that prevented him from being able to race. He quickly ran to a friend's house to race from there, and then the power went out there. He got word that the power was back on home, so he went back home, and then the power went off there. So it was just a comedy of errors, and it really, it has got better since then, but just a lot of things haven't gone his way this year.
Yeah, he was off the rostrum he's off the winner's step of the podium at least for a very long time. Didn't actually get his first win until round 9, race 21 at the Darwin SuperSprint. He was on the podium a few more times before that. He got, I think, 11 more podiums in the meantime. And he's had a couple more since then, a couple of third places. But he has struggled to find that initial pace as well. And he hasn't been on the winner's step of the podium since round 9, of course. So he'll be looking to get back up there. He is by virtue of his consistency, mind you, he's still third in the championship, which is a great effort from him, of course. But he is 499 points adrift of Dayne Warren, factoring in their drop rounds. So for Kurt Stenberg to have any chance, or at least to pull the gap in, if he won both of the races here tonight and Dayne Warren somehow failed to score any points, Kurt Stenberg would still be 199 points adrift of Dayne Warren in the championship, which would be a lot harder to overcome in Bathurst. It would mean he would also have to win Bathurst and have Dayne Warren finish 19th or below, or not score any points.
Yeah.
So it's a very tall order, and it would require a lot of misfortune on Dayne Warren's part for Kurt Stenberg to be able to challenge for the championship. But as I like to say all the time, almost ad nauseum, anything can happen in motorsport.
And it usually does, as the great Murray Walker always used to say. Thankfully, Murray Walker's still with us, hopefully for as long as possible, because he...
Don't say that. Now that you've brought up his lifespan.
Oh.
Jeez, I don't know what's going to happen. That's the sound of me touching wood.
Yeah, touch all that wood.
He's one of the men that I'd love to get the chance to meet while I still have the opportunity.
It would be a very, very special thing. He was the voice of many of our childhoods in the Formula One broadcasts with Martin Brundle, and before that with Jonathan Palmer and with James Hunt. And we have lost quite a few of motorsports commentators throughout the last few years. Darrell Eastlake and the other one whose name Mike Raymond.
Mike Raymond, yeah. I was going to say? Yeah, Murray Walker, he is quite famous for his errors that he makes on air sometimes. But it's kind of a byproduct of just how infectiously passionate he is for Formula One. He just gets too excited for his own good. And it's honestly a joy to watch, and it always was a joy to watch. And I think even after he retired from Formula One in 2001, he still made appearances doing various forms of commentary for other things. He's worked for Channel 4 in the UK and ITV. And I think he was actually the trackside commentator for the Adelaide 500 for a couple of years, wasn't he, Stairs?
That's a good question. I didn't...
Once or twice, I think. There's a couple of clips on YouTube. I think he came over, he was invited to do a guest commentary once, and he said it was the best touring car race on the planet, and he's been back a lot of times since then. And I've seen at least one video where he's doing the trackside PA calling for the Clipsal 500.
Now known as the Super Loop. But,
Indeed.
Those are very good words of praise from a man who should know. He's been to a few races, touring car and open wheeler. In fact, one of my favourite moments, I think it was in 2006, Murray Walker came back for a guest commentary spot on Channel 10 when they still had the Formula One, when they broadcast all the Formula One, and they had him in the commentary box with, I think it was Neil Crompton and it might have been Daryl Beattie. And it was so strange to hear him in the commentary box after 5 years since his retirement from full-time commentating.
That would have been a strange combination with him alongside Daryl Beattie and Neil Crompton, because you're used to hearing those voices across all various forms of motorsport. Having in the same room, calling the same race at the same time would be eerie almost. It's like when Mark Skaife was in the booth at the Formula One last year, I think it was. That
was very strange. He made a bit of a song and dance, didn't he, about being asked to do an onboard lap of Abu Dhabi. Talk us through a lap.
And he completely flubbed it, from what I remember. He just got flustered and couldn't actually call the lap. But he seemed pretty happy to be there. And did Crofty do a supercar spot as well at the Grand Prix? I seem to recall something like that, maybe.
Yes, I think that sort of got lost in the depths of my memory because of all the events that happened afterwards with the cancellation of the event. You're referring to this year's event?
It may have been this year's event, yeah, during one of the practice sessions. Maybe.
I think you're right. That does ring a bell. Goodness me.
Speaking of weird places I've seen commentators, or heard commentators, I don't know if you ever watched the darts coverage on whoever does the darts. I think it's Sky who also does the F1.
Yeah.
On KO, yeah. Crofty calls the darts sometimes for Sky Sports, and that was really weird hearing him because he's very knowledgeable about the darts as well.
That's very interesting. Yeah, no, I think I I think I was alerted to that by one of my racing friends, hearing Crofty on darts. I mean, he's got the enthusiasm for it. That's one thing.
He certainly does. While I've been talking about commentators, we've had a practice session wrap up that we've completely missed, and Dayne Warren has not been able to improve on his time, but he's still P1 with a 1:16.437 in the practice session, and we will be moving into qualifying very shortly indeed.
Well, Ethan isn't quite as close as he was to Dayne in the last week's race on the longer version of the circuit, so maybe Dayne's found something, or perhaps Ethan had something over Dayne in the middle sector last week. There's still more time to come. I saw Dayne did a 16.1 in the practice session that wrapped up just before we went to air, so there's still a little bit of time, of course. The track would have been reset as far as the rubbering in, so it'll get faster and faster as the night wears on.
I guess when you're running a shorter track as well, there's a slight benefit in that there's less corners to memorize, so it means you can refine your lap time even more precisely over a longer period of practice. For those watching along at home, you can visit us online at asc.rocksolidmates.com for all the info on the championship, and that is the end of the practice session.
Yep, we're going to roll into a 10-minute qualifying session very, very shortly indeed. And that'll be unlimited laps. Of course, they are limited by the number of tyres that they have available to them, which is 5 for the practice session prior to this, the qualifying session, and then the 16-lap race itself, which is about 55 kilometres. This is a 3.4 kilometre circuit, clockwise in direction, and that differs from last week's version of the circuit, which was 4.95 kilometres in length.
So yeah, shaved a bit of length off the track, a lot more laps in, gives the track a little bit more of a chance to rubber up, and the cars are now peeling out onto the apron waiting to be released onto the racing surface for a quick 10-minute blast around here. With lap times at 1:16, it gives you about... my maths is also awful. I just got to try and think. I think you get about 8 laps maximum that you can put in. So 8 chances at full pelt, of course, to be able to put laps in around here. Obviously, drivers won't be able to put in fast times for all those 8 laps because they'll be running low fuel loads and things like that. And they may make a couple of mistakes when they're going at 110% around here. So we can expect to see a little bit of a rush as they come out to try and get a banker lap in case there's an issue of some sort and they can only post the 1 lap. And of course, once the session draws to a conclusion, everyone will come back out for a little bit of a happy hour and post the fastest laps they can once time has elapsed. But we are underway. We're looking at Shaun, Allan now, the closest threat to Dayne Warren, of course, in the championship.
Just one car left in the pits at the moment, and that is Zach Baker, with Brodie Steen having been the most recent car to take to the racetrack. Pretty much everyone else went straight out. Zach Baker waited a little bit, so he has a bit of clear track in front of him. At the moment, it's Brapp leading the queue of cars out in front. Actually, he's just been overtaken by Shaun Allan, who now leads on the racetrack. So he has the biggest amount of clear air available, and we have just seen Zach Baker take to the racetrack. So all 14 cars on the racetrack now.
Looks like Brapp's got a fresh lick of paint as well, but we are looking at Shaun Allan at the moment. He'll be the first driver to cross the timing line, and he will be the one to post the benchmark lap when he comes around. So everyone else is trying to get some last-minute temperature into their tyres, and Shaun Allan is blazing the path.
So here he comes through turn 1. He was very, very strong under brakes here last week. Kurt Stenberg try as he might, could not get past him down there at turn 1. Shaun Allan, very, very difficult to pass into these heavy braking zones. Here he comes up to the section of racetrack which differs from where we were last week. The cones denoting the edge of the track there as you move to the left-hand side of the circuit to take that right-hand hairpin. And then from there into turn 7, 8 and 9. There'll be a quick change of direction to the right as he comes out of this corner and into the penultimate 2 corners. Looked like a pretty clean lap from Shaun Allan so far. 55.458 to the second sector split.
Yeah, very neat and tidy so far. We'll see what it comes up like when he gets to the control line. 1:16.8 116.4, somewhere around there as a benchmark from practice. Let's see what we can do in qualifying. We'll be running some differing setups in this session, of course. And the first lap that he's put down is 117.3, so there's still a little bit of room to work with in this qualifying session, of course. And we can expect to see those times tumbling as the session progresses. Brad posts another time as well. It's a 119.5 for him.
Colin
And Colin
goes to the top.
has gone to the top with a 117.0.
The split from Dayne, if he doesn't get held up in traffic, was up by 0.7 of a second. So this is going to be a mega lap on his first try for Dayne Warren, as we're used to seeing him do. 23 poles already, and he takes to the top with a time almost identical to the one he did in practice.
Didn't he put one lap time in qualifying at the last race? He's already been bested by Ethan Warren, as a matter of fact. I seem to remember Dayne Warren put in one lap time. It was either the last race or the one I was commentating on last, and then he was done. Didn't put any more in for the session. Still got pole position.
Well, he'll need another one if he wants pole position now, because he has been bested, as you said, Matty, by his brother Ethan Warren, who might have been holding a little bit of something in reserve. Dayne is up again if he's choosing to continue with this lap, so it's not over yet. Even on this run, Dayne Warren looking like he might be able to challenge Ethan, but there is a fair bit of
Ethan
traffic.
Warren's in the fence. He was up as well. He was up 0.07 of a second, but he spun it on the run into turn 6 and has backed it into the fence. So that's a tricky bit there. He's got on a little bit of grass. We're just having a look at the replay now. So he's coming through the long, fast turn 5, and he just got a little bit tripped up. Caught too much grass on the exit of turn 5 and just sent himself straight into the barrier. And that's not what you want to be seeing. But so he'll be lucky he's got that bank lap in to start things off.
And look at
but
this.
That's gonna...
Dayne, sorry to cut across you. Dayne Warren has caught up to Alex Cattle on his lap, and that will have absolutely ruined it, I should think. Unless he can get a tow. He has got a tow. My goodness, so he's found that little bit that he needed to topple Ethan Warren, who was pushing hard, as we saw, with that accident. So Dayne Warren must have just caught Alex Cattle at the right moment to not be held up and maybe even benefit a little bit.
Perfect time to encounter traffic in a qualifying session. We're just seeing a few of the guys peel into pits now to make some changes to setups. I'm not sure if we're running park permit conditions for the qualifying session here, but at the very least they'll be topping up a tiny little bit amount of fuel, maybe throwing on a different set of tyres depending on what they have in reserve to deal with. Of course, only 5 sets of tyres for the round. So that's something they have to ration carefully. So that may mean they have to sacrifice qualifying pace if they want to keep some good tyres for the race. Depends on each driver's circumstances and their situation and how much they value qualifying. Of course, we've seen some drivers such as Jake Maloney, who has a habit of not really qualifying at all and then still blasting through the field to post good results. I'm not sure if he'll be in tonight, actually. Do you know if Jake Maloney's going to be racing with us?
Well, he's got this habit, doesn't he, of showing up at the end of qualifying and starting the race from the back of the grid. And surprising us by ending up in the top 10 by the end of the first lap. So we'll wait and see on that one. It'll be good to see him if he does indeed make his way into this server. But as you said, Matty, a lot of activity in the pits now. Not a lot of lap times being set, as they all seem to be in their in that phase of the race where of the qualifying session in between their two runs. Lots of outlaps. There is that new paint job from Brap that you mentioned before, Matty.
Yeah, he's normally been campaigning just the plain black wildcard car, but he's got a little bit of a fresh lick on his car, and it's got him up until 11th for the time being. He's 3.2 seconds off the pace that's been set by Dayne Warren, who has come to the top, and he's got a 1:16.299, so that is faster than what he was able to manage in practice. And I think we can expect to see those lap times come down a little bit more, especially for Brap. He's got the lights ablaze. He wants to let everyone else know on the track that he means business, as we're starting to see a couple of drivers coming out now. And anyone who isn't out on track yet should definitely make their way out on as soon as possible, because we've only got 3 minutes and 10 seconds left in the session.
Just 2 cars in the pits at the moment, and that's Dayne Warren and David Nenadic. Looks like Brody Steen must have had some sort of issue on his first attempt, because he has not managed to set a lap time, so he's either had a crash or a track cut along the way somehow.
May have been pulling out of the way of somebody who was on a fast lap and taking to the grass, and that would have constituted a track cut. And of course, the track cut's just the penalty for a track cut during qualifying and practice, that your lap time gets scratched. So as fast as it may be, if you do cut the track, that lap time is not for you this time around, so you have to go back around and try it again. Brody Steen isn't able to improve on his current time at the moment. He's actually 4 and a bit tenths down, so he's got a bit of work to do. Thomas McMillan, meanwhile, is down in 12th, which is uncharacteristically low for him.
Yeah, he's on a lap right now, so we'll see if he can make any sorts of improvements. Colin Warwick's doing well up in 3rd place. Now, Kurt Stenberg's probably disappointed where he is right now, down in 6th, as Thomas McMillan is up by 3.5 tenths on his PB. And where he is now, well, he's obviously had a spin in the final sector because his lap is 17 seconds adrift. So this should be a bit more of a representative time from Thomas McMillan, and indeed it is. He slots up into 3rd, ahead of Colin Warwick, who's looking to improve on his lap currently too.
Dayne Warren will be looking to not necessarily post a lap this time around, but he will be starting a lap. I think he's on his outer at the moment, and Dayne Warren will be trying to push that gap to his brother a little bit further apart than the 900ths of a second that it currently sits at right now. Those two very even on pace, and Colin Warwick is up, as we're seeing on the screen at the moment. He is up on his personal best, but not a huge amount further up on his gap to the guys at the front. So he will reduce his gap to Thomas McMillan a little bit, but he's got some work to do. Ethan Warren is up on his PB, but he's not up enough to best the time of Dayne Warren as he goes through, I believe, the 2nd sector split. So Ethan Warren's getting pretty close to finishing a lap now. He will narrow the gap at this rate to his brother Dayne, providing Dayne can't do too much else. And Dayne Warren is indeed down in his lap time. So Ethan Warren will improve here. Can he beat his brother with this lap time?
Oh, he got a track cut.
He did indeed. So no lap time at all. So 56 seconds left in the session. There'll be time for Ethan Warren to put in one more lap. This is his final chance to get on the pole position.
Colin goes
and Colin
3rd.
Warwick is back ahead of Thomas McMillan.
Yeah, a bit of tit for tat going on there. Good to see Colin Warwick performing so well at the moment, as we see Dayne Warren has probably backed out of that lap. As you said, he was down. He's now down by 2 seconds. I think he's just preparing for one last tilt at pole position as he rounds the final corner to start that final lap with 25 seconds remaining on the board.
Dayne Warren goes 118.726, so he's quite a long way off, and he's got one more chance to try and get himself up. As you were saying, we've got 14 seconds left in the session. If you're in the final sector, you better get a move on and make it back to the control line if you want to give it another crack around here. I'm not sure who we have who's on a good lap at the moment. Brody Steen's looking a little bit quicker. Zach Baker's pulled into the pits. He's done with the session. He will go no higher than P6 for the start of race 1 here at the Bend West Circuit.
So Brad will be the last man to set a time. He crossed the line just before it hit 0.
Kurt Stenberg also is not improving. He's pulled over to let the cars pass behind him, so his session is done and dusted. He won't be any faster than 7th.
Ethan's into the pits, so that's it for his qualifying session, as Corey Preston nearly rear ends him. So Dayne Warren has this pretty much in the bag unless we see a bit of an upset. And he is up on the current lap as well.
Thomas McMillan certainly won't do it. He's 6 seconds down on his best lap time. Colin Warwick and Shaun Allan. Shaun Allan is up marginally. He's got a 117.146. He's up 200ths of a second on his PB. Not enough to go 4th fastest. So Dayne Warren is in the final sector now, and there seems to be no one who can challenge him for pole position. It's going to be yet another P1 start for Dayne Warren as he crosses the line.
He's going to peel.
Oh, he's coming to the pit, so he won't even need to finish the lap. So it is a 116.299 for Dayne Warren, and that is pole position for race number 30 of the season here at the Bend.
Last car across the line will be Brap, and he's going to finish that, or if he finishes that, he's gone very, very wide through the final corner. Currently sat in 13th. Can he improve? No, he can't. He finds a 10th on his PB, but it is not enough to improve his position. So David Nenadic clearly didn't get a representative lap in there. 21 seconds adrift down there in 14th. He's got a bit of work to do, but it's Dayne Warren who takes pole position on his 21st birthday.
21st birthday, 24 poles this season so far for Dayne Warren. He's unstoppable in qualifying almost.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He has been a very, very dominant force in qualifying this season and throughout the year. So 24 pole positions, and that's from 27 starts. So just 3 times he's not started from pole when he's been racing in this championship.
Unbelievable record. And the only thing that really comes in the way of Dayne Warren and good results is just unfortunate happenstances during the race, or maybe strategy trip-ups. So apart from that, he's been almost unstoppable in the races this season as well. And now we have a little bit of a short break, I believe, before we head into race 1.
Yep, we'll have a quick 3-minute warm-up. We're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we'll bring you all the action from the Bend Motorsport Park West Circuit. Here we are, approaching the hay plains. We've got Evie, or Goofball Antics is driving. It's happening. And on the other side there is Madbird. It's me. And Stairs here, repping in the back seat. Behind us. Oh, let's not worry about that magazine. we got Resist and Xeris in the front there. Resist driving. How have you felt about the trip so far, Heath?
It's been good. It's a bit of an early start. It's nice and cool in here, and that's all that matters. Good company.
Yeah, it's a pretty hot day today, isn't it, Madbird?
Feels weird being a passenger in my own car.
We're 6 hours in, about 7 hours to go. See you in Bathurst.
Oh my goodness! How are you feeling after that turn there, Heath? Or that not turn, but that truck turning?
Truck turn.
Yeah, that looked like it unsettled you slightly.
Are there any cucumbers back there, Stairs? Because that'd be the only thing cooler than me right now.
Oh, he's done it.
This Coke's pretty cool.
What an absolute legend. So we're on the way to West Wyalong. We got assorted snacks with our walkie-talkie, and we don't have a rubbish bag. Do we, Stairs?
No.
I appreciate it.
We don't have a rubbish bag. That was an oversight.
So the marching order is the same as before. I believe Phil is still driving in the other car.
Yep.
We're about 400 k's now from Bathurst, and it's all looking very exciting. I'm very keen, and I'm really happy that Alistair has these very loud walkie-talkies. Fuck.
Do you want to check in with the other cars, see if they've got anything to say to the phone?
Oh my gosh.
Mad car to Fabmobile, do you read?
What?
Take that as a yes. Do you have a question for them?
How's your drive going?
Oh, how's the drive going? Everything going well on your part?
Yep, it sure is the countryside.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong there.
Good talk.
Good talk. Anyway, good talking to you.
So that's about it. We're on our way, and we'll be in Bathurst this evening. I'm very excited to stretch my legs. Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Automobilista Supercars Championship Round 13 from the Bend Motorsport Park for the second week in a row. My name's Stez, and I'm joining commentary tonight by Matt Dunlop.
You certainly are. It's good to be back in the booth once again. And we've got a little bit of time before the race gets underway. Stez, based on what you've seen in qualifying, who do you think is going to take out race 1?
Well, we saw Ethan kick it up a notch a little bit in the qualifying session. He was a little bit further away from his brother Dayne in the practice session, but Dayne wasn't able to win a race in the round that we had last week here at the Bend. So The pressure's on him to get it done at this racetrack, even though he's very much in the box seat for the championship. I put my own money on Ethan right now.
I'm going to go ahead and say Shaun Allan, because why not? I want to make this championship battle a little bit juicier if I possibly can. And Shaun Allan's had a good run. He had a win, of course, last time out of the bend, even when racing against Dayne Warren on the same track. So anything can definitely happen. He is starting quite far back, though, so he's got to rely on a really good start. Thankfully for him, the track's a little bit wide here at Tailem Bend on the main straight, so it gives a good opportunity to swerve around guys and get some early positions, especially into turn 1. Kurt Stenberg, in terms of his championship, he's basically got to win or bust his first race, which is going to be a pretty big ask for him as well. He's 499 points adrift, and if he's any more than 449 points adrift after the first race, then he will be out of the championship hunt, and we're just taking off now for the formation lap stairs.
We certainly are, so let's have a quick look through the grid for this race. Dayne Warren, he is your pole sitter and will be looking to clinch the title tonight. His brother Ethan Warren starts next to him in second place for Card Effects Racing, and then behind them Thomas McMillan, who's been a fast starter this year, in third place. Watch out for him off the start of this race. And then Colin Warwick, great qualifying session from him. He had a strong night last week until his internet dropped out in the final race, and he starts out of fourth place ahead of Shaun Allan, who still has a chance to win the championship, but albeit a slim one. Zach Baker behind him starts in sixth place, the leading ZB car, and then Kurt Stenberg, the other driver, who still has a mathematical chance of winning this championship, starting out of seventh ahead of Brodie Steen for Race on Oz in the Mustang. And then we've got Corey Preston sporting a new livery there in ninth place. RSM Latino is in 10th, and then behind him we've got Alex Cattle, Steve Warwick in 12th, Brap in 13th place, and then David Nenadic, not setting a representative time in qualifying, will start at the back of the grid in 14th place.
Yeah, you don't really see David Nenadic that far down in the standings at all. He's normally a pretty speedy guy in that ZB Racing Mustang. He has been on the podium at least once or twice here. We got that surprise podium that he almost converted into a win at Darwin in the Triple Crown. You might remember when the two guys in front of him, Dayne and Ethan Warren, I think it was. No, it was Thomas McMillan and Kurt Stenberg were trying to redress there, and they nearly gave David Nenadic an easy win on the main straight. So he is definitely a quick guy when he needs to be, and he definitely needs to be today, starting from 14th on the grid. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what all these guys can do, of course. We've got a great race lined up, folks. Dayne and Ethan Warren have now pulled up on the front row, and we're waiting for the rest of the guys to form up their spots on the grid.
Dayne went a little bit too far past his grid spot and had to reverse to get back onto it, but he has managed to do that now, and we're just seeing the last few cars lining up now. Lights are on. We're about to get racing once more here at the Bend. And away they go. A really great launch there for Ethan Warren. Looks like he's going to get the whole shot down the inside. Look at, we've got Colin Warwick as well having a good run. He's got past as well. Dayne Warren trying to squeeze out Thomas McMillan, who is down the inside as well. So a terrible start for Dayne Warren, and they've all crashed. What a disaster. Absolute scenes here as Brodie Steen goes through into the lead of the race.
Unbelievable stuff. Ethan Warren had to shortcut the grass there after copying a massive whack. That's thrown a whole lot of people out of sequence there, and there may be at least one or two penalties dished out from that. Dayne Warren is down to 5th position, and Colin Warwick is leading the race with Brodie Steen back in 3rd, behind Ethan Warren in 2nd, who's having a look up the inside in turn 6. Ethan Warren has made his way for now back into P1 in the race at the moment, with Colin Warwick behind, and there's another spin that looks to be, I think it is Corey Preston, who spun at the back there. We're seeing a few guys 4 wide there, and I think that was also Alex Cattle who spun out as well.
So I think I called Brodie Steen was in fact Ethan Warren, who was already out of the shot by the time there. So Ethan Warren leads from Colin Warwick. Brodie Steen up into 3rd, managed to avoid all of that carnage. And we'll see if we can pick up a bit of a replay just to see exactly what triggered that, because as we finish the first lap of the race, we have a very different picture now to what we had 1 lap ago. Here is the replay. We're going to play this in a bit of slow motion here. Thomas and Millen was down the inside of Dayne Warren, and then it looks like they copped a whack from behind. I think that might have been Zach Baker into the inside of Warren, and Dayne, that is, and then Ethan Warren and Colin Warwick got together, and then it was just absolute carnage. Mirrors going everywhere, and Brodie Steen is pretty much the only car in that picture to stay on the racetrack.
Thankfully, no retirements as a result of that. Everyone is still on track at the moment. We've still got 14 runners. And it is Ethan Warren still leading the race with Colin Warwick, Dayne Warren. Brodie Steen has fallen back to 4th, and Dayne Warren has made up a couple of spots back up into P3. So Warren has a lot of pace at the moment, which is great to see, and we can expect to see him back up in the pointy end at some point soon.
We've got a safety car, and I'm not sure why that is.
Neither am I. I can't really see what's happened. Zach Baker has dropped to the back of the field. So maybe he's had an incident at some point. He's had an incident. He's completely outbraked himself somewhere and gone. Well, he's so lucky there not to collect anyone. How has he managed to do that? Let's catch an onboard. Look at this. This is unbelievable. So he's on board now with Zach Baker. Just gets a little bit wobbly, jumps on the anchors too hard, and finds the perfect gap in traffic between Shaun, Allan and Brapp to just smash it straight through sideways and not collect anyone. That is so lucky, and I think it looks like
MotoGP incident at Austria, where the two bikes went through Vinales and Rossi without hitting them.
Look at the pit lane now. Everyone is peeling in. Sorry to interrupt you there, but every single driver and their dog almost are in the pit lane at the moment, taking some tyres, taking one of their stops and getting it out of the way while we're dealing with a safety car. And we're just seeing a little bit of a biff and barge in the pit lane, as a matter of fact, as we see everyone peeling through at the moment. Out on track, we still have Steve Warwick, Dayne Warren, Colin Warwick, and Ethan Warren, who have not stopped. So they are currently 1st through 4th at the moment. Steve Warwick, 8 spots up from where he started, and Brodie Steen is still 5th, up 3 from where he started. So Brodie's still doing quite well. It's a drive-through penalty for RSM Latino, which I imagine will be for speeding in the pit lane.
So crucially, those drivers that you mentioned are the only ones that didn't pit. So Ethan Warren, Colin Warwick, Dayne Warren, and Steve Warwick. So Brodie Steen is the leading car on track to have made his pit stop.
And given that the safety car is going to bunch everybody up, that's going to make things really tricky for these 4 guys at the front. They may even elect to take a pit stop when they come around the next time by, because it's a really good opportunity, of course, to get that compulsory pit stop out of the way when the whole field is being slowed down by the safety car. Whether or not they decide to do that is another question entirely. Some of them might be banking on the fact that we might see another safety car, which I quite frankly think could be a little bit unlikely, but you never know. And of course, we know Dayne Warren and Ethan Warren have the ability to just power through the field no matter where they are sitting in it. So if they end up at the back of the pack, as long as they can catch up to the queue, they should be able to do some pretty incredible things and catch on. We're just seeing no one's peeling into the pits just yet. I thought Ethan was about to, but he may have just thrown a dummy into the pit lane to see if he could get anyone else off his tail.
Yeah, it looks like they're all electing not to. So time will tell whether that turns out to be a blunder, but we're 100% chance of safety car in the bend since we had safety car last week, and we've had it again in the first race this week. So that is quite remarkable, considering this is one of the racetracks that you would have thought would be the least likely to bring out the safety car.
You would have indeed, given the massive expanses of runoff and around here and the lack of proximity to walls and whatnot. It's a pretty hard place to damage a car here. And of course, we didn't see any damage from Zach Baker, who was just unlucky in causing that safety car when he spun at turn 6. But we do have a safety car nonetheless. But thankfully we do. Oh, speaking of safety car issues, we remember seeing that last week.
Yeah, we did.
Because the AI line that the safety car takes is a little bit out of whack here at the tail and bend. And it takes some really interesting lines, and it means Ethan Warren is now going to have to remember to keep his distance out of the safety car, as he nearly rear-ended it. We're going to see on the replay here, the safety car just decided to jump on the anchors right about now.
So close.
And Ethan Warren very nearly cleaned it up.
Well, he should be used to that, because he was the car immediately behind the safety car last week that had that issue. So it's the AI line on this particular circuit it does have the same problems that it has on the longer version of the circuit. And you've just got to watch out. I would certainly be giving that safety car a bit of a gap.
Indeed. Indeed.
Indeed.
I'm not sure if any penalties came from Ethan Warren as a result of that, but I think they would have been a bit unrealistic given the erratic behaviour of the safety car driver. And he's given it a lot more room this time around.
Notice he's got the cog on, if you were looking at the onboard screen, the cog indicating that he has alerted his pit crew that he wants to come in. So we might be seeing pit stops on this lap.
We certainly could be indeed, and that would be an interesting strategy, of course, to pit now as opposed to doing it right when the safety car came out. We'll see what happens as they come around.
Is it going to come in? I think it is. Safety car is in, and then that is going to be a restart. So Ethan Warren has stayed out, and they're bumping all the way down. This is going to be up to Ethan Warren and the game as to when they actually go.
Oh, it's a 10-second stop and go for Ethan Warren.
We must have gone too early, so that is a start infringement for Ethan Warren. Time will tell whether our live steward will clear the penalty, but Dayne Warren has made a move already on Colin Warwick, who gets spun around by Thomas McMillan, and he will not be happy. Kurt Stenberg's involved, and Shaun Allan. Brodie Steen off the track. What an absolute disaster. Colin Warwick still yet to go moving as the field is making its way out of turn 2 as we speak.
So apart from Dayne Warren, both of our championship protagonists, Shaun Allan and Kurt Stenberg, are back in 10th and 13th respectively. We could see a championship decided in this very race as Dayne Warren, the championship leader, goes up the inside of his brother Ethan and makes a bit of contact with him, in fact, through turn 6. So there's a lot of paint trading all across the field. They go side by side through turn number 8. That's a very risky manoeuvre there from Dayne Warren, and he's not able to do anything about it. He slots back in behind his brother there in second for the time being, but it's a very close scrap between those two at the front. Lot of carnage back in the field though.
Yeah, it's the final opportunity as Dayne goes down the inside of his brother Ethan and takes the lead of the race. It's the final opportunity for these guys for a single driver race before they have to share a car with someone else, and so everyone's getting a bit reckless in this last race. Ethan, I should say, has got a run. Dayne is going defensive to the inside. Do we see if Ethan got that penalty cleared by the live steward?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything pop up yet, so it's really going to be hard to tell. I may have to check the a server chat or something like that to be able to find out if that is the case. I'm not really sure. I'll see what I can do about that one to find out.
So let's just catch a replay of that horrible start line or restart incident. That was Thomas McMillan maybe getting a little bit too eager and knocking Colin Warwick out of a very strong third place. And absolute carnage behind. Steve Warwick narrowly missing his son Colin Warwick there, and then poor old Kurt Stenberg just got tagged on the rear left quarter and got involved in that incident. Shaun Allan had nowhere to go. Then the seas actually parted for him and he was able to go through the middle. Now Brodie Steen had to take to the grass, but he's actually found himself in the third place after that.
He has. He's up 5 spots from where he started back in P8. So Brodie Steen, as a result of seemingly everybody else's misfortune on the start and the restart, is up into P3. And he's got David Nenadich right behind him. He's up 10 spots. So there's my prediction on what David Nenadich was able to do. He's up into 4th, which will be a great result for him. Dayne Warren has posted the fastest lap so far as he holds off his brother. It's a 1:17.522. Ethan trying to fake around the outside. He's going to outbrake himself potentially.
He's made the corner.
No, he may hold the line. That's a great move from Ethan Warren around the outside into turn 1.
Well, we still have the potential of a penalty hanging over Ethan Warren's head, and he hasn't made his compulsory pit stop, so this is all probably a little bit artificial right now, but it's good to see a scrap between the two Warren brothers.
This is very true indeed. We're not sure what's going to happen with that penalty. We'll keep you posted. When we know, we'll let you know. They're both on the anchors. These guys have just produced some fantastic racing, don't they, Stairs?
They most certainly do, and they are two of the fastest two guys in Australian sim racing. And Dayne Warren on the cusp of clinching his first Automobilista Supercars Championship. Closest rival down there in 5th place, Shaun Allan.
Good recovery from Shaun, up 5 spots from where he ended up at the end of the last lap. So he's been able to get his way back through the field pretty handily. Kurt Stenberg, on the other hand, is still sitting down in 10th. So a little bit more of a struggle for him. But we also have to keep in mind that we haven't seen pit stops yet from either of the Warren brothers, Colin Warwick, or whoever it was in 4th. I've lost the name completely. I think it was Brodie Steen, but I'm not sure.
Brodie's in 3rd at the moment.
No, Brody did pit. I do remember that now.
Yeah,
so
he
Brody
did.
has already pitted. So Brody's in 3rd place, having already pitted. I'm not sure what the pit delta is, but it definitely isn't the gap to the front, which is currently 4.7
Oh,
seconds.
we've got Corey
There's a spin in the
Preston's
background.
around. Corey Preston
Preston's
is
gone
around.
round again.
And so is Zach Baker, who's having an absolute nightmare of a race at the moment. I think he must have tried to avoid Corey Preston. We're going to see if we can catch a replay of what happened there. Oh! It's like Zach Baker and Corey Preston got involved in an incident there. What the? Let's go on board here. That was deliberate.
I'd hope it isn't, but it's hard to say that it isn't because you don't really see anything like that on a straight. There's no reason for that at all.
Well,
And it
if
looks
it's not
like-
deliberate, he's an awful driver because what on earth was he trying to do there? That unquestionably, to my mind, is deliberate, and he should feel the wrath of the stewards for that. I don't know what's going on. He's been having an absolutely shocking night. And, I mean, he's been a very, very strong racer throughout this entire championship. And I want to sort of say good things about him for that. But tonight, he's been absolutely shocking.
Well, unfortunately, the way the penalty system works in the Automobilistas Supercars Championship is it works on points deductions, which can work well. But when you're in a situation like we have at the moment, where there's only 3 drivers who are mathematically eligible for the championship, for the rest of the field of 11 guys out on the track at the moment, the points just don't matter. So there isn't a huge amount of incentive or a huge amount of prevention in terms of like punishment to keep you from doing things like that. So hopefully that doesn't set a precedent for these last few races here at Taylor and Bend, because that's not what we want to see at all.
Yeah, exactly.
If it is deliberate, of course.
Well, I don't know whether Corey Preston has clearly done something to anger Zach Baker at some stage, but Zach Baker has certainly not had a clean copybook throughout the night. He's caused a number of issues himself, caused the first safety car. So I don't really know what to say about what's happening there. And it's not his prerogative to try and make amends for other people's mistakes. That's up to the stewards.
Well, if it is accidental, then it is still very poor driving from Zach Baker to actually cause that incident in the first place. But if it is deliberate, then the joke is really on Zach at the moment, because he's put himself down in 12th position as a result of that spin, while Corey Preston is still in 8th. But we'll leave that for the time being, because there's a couple of other battles happening through the field. Shaun Allan is trying to make a move on David Nedinich into 3rd, and he does so. So Shaun Allan is now up into the podium positions, with Brody Steen having dropped down into 5th position.
That's happened quickly. He was
That did happen quickly. That happened while we weren't even watching. So
Yeah.
Thomas McMillan is lurking behind those guys, trying to get up as well, with Kurt Stenberg behind in 7th. He's recovered to where he started this race. And we're already 10 laps in. Geez, that time's flown quite quickly. David Nedinich is going to have another look into turn 6, but he can't do anything there. Shaun Allan covers him off beautifully.
So this 3-car battle over the final spot on the podium, as the 2 Warren brothers battle it out front for 1st and 2nd. But this battle, now that Shaun Allan occupies the front spot of, could become 2nd if we see Ethan making a pit stop in the next few laps.
As well as Dayne, of course. These guys aren't far enough ahead, and they won't get it far enough ahead to be able to pull the gap. And
Oop.
Dayne Warren's pulled into the pits. He's made the first move. Ethan
That's
Warren's going to
interesting.
inherit the lead of the race, and Dayne Warren's dropped into the pits.
Did we not see Dayne make a pit stop in the first part of the race then? I
No,
thought
he
we
did not. He was one of the 4 cars at the front of the queue who did not pit
You're
after
right.
the first safety car came out. So it was
Beg your
Dayne,
pardon.
Ethan, Colin Warwick, and I believe there was somebody else. Whoever was running in 4th at the time did not make a pit stop.
Well then, that puts Shaun Allan in the catbird seat right now. Assuming that he doesn't need to make another pit stop, but according to my numbers, he pitted on lap 2, and so this could be the break Shaun Allan needs to claw back just a few points, as Dayne Warren has dropped down to 11th place.
Just be able to hang in there a little bit in the points race if he sits where he is at the moment, because we are still expecting, well, Dayne has already pitted and he's re-emerged onto the track
Colin
in
Warwick too.
11th position, so he hasn't pulled up as much of a gap at the front as he would have liked, partly due to the fact that he was dueling with his brother for the entirety of the early stages of the race there. So he's got a lot of work to do, and the gap to the front is now 40 seconds, which is a massive margin to be able to make up in 5 laps. And that's a spin for Brody. No, for
That's
Zach
David
Baker.
Nedinich.
Not Zach Baker, David
has
Nedinich.
spun around, so that's a that's hugely unfortunate for him. Ethan Warren has just made his way into the pits.
So David Nenadic spinning is unfortunate because that's dropped him back. He hadn't lost any spots originally, but his lack of pace now has meant that he's fallen to P6, and he's got Thomas McMillan ahead of him, as well as Kurt Stenberg, who's now up to 5th. And those two are going side by side down the main straight now, and David Nenadic is trying to get a draft off the back of Thomas McMillan. As we're just seeing a replay of what happened, he spun all on his own. There was no contact there, which is good to see, but it's also a shame for David Nenadic.
Yeah, David Nenadic up to that point having quite a good race. In a race where his teammate seems to have had a brain explosion. So David Nenadic is making up for that for the fortunes of the ZB team. But that spin's just sort of soured that a little bit. So now we've got Kurt Stenberg on the podium with Brodie Steen and Shaun Allan. So this is all the kind of thing we want to see in terms of the championship, but it's certainly not gone the way of the Warren brothers at the moment.
I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things, Stairs. First of all, let's look at the battle we're looking at the moment. Look who's there in P5. Corey Preston, of all people, after spinning out at least twice in the early stages of the race, is up into 5th. That's a phenomenal effort from him.
One of
fantastic driving. We haven't. It's actually only the second round that we've seen from Corey Preston so far this year. Last time out, he had a 7th, 8th, and a 10th, and so far he seems to be on a lot more pace around this West circuit. So it's great to see, but he has nicked David Nenadic there and actually pushed him wide. So he'll do well to redress that spot if he gets a chance, because that's not really on at all. But there's only a little bit of minor contact that's unsettled him there.
Yeah, it's almost like he's repaying David Nenadic for what Zach Baker did to him, as though they're the same person.
You'd hope that's not the case, wouldn't you?
No, if we're seeing this sort of tit-for-tat stuff, it's not racing. It's just, well, it's crap, really.
It's just a little bit immature, isn't it?
It is. But we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and hope that's not the case.
Dayne Warren down in 10th position now, has posted the fastest lap with a 1:16.359, which is pretty close to what his qualifying pace is looking like, as a matter of fact. We're just watching Ethan Warren at the moment behind him in 11th with another 3 seconds behind. But out in front at the moment, it is currently, as we stand, a 1-2 for the Race on Oz guys, with Shaun Allan leading the way, the second place in the championship guy, Shaun Allan, ahead of Brodie Steen in 2nd. I'm just going to start doing a quick calculation of points on the fly.
Yeah.
So give me a little bit of a minute while I work that out. We're still seeing a pretty close battle between Nenadic and Corey Preston at the moment as well, Stairs.
Yeah, well, I think that may well just seal the team's championship for Race on Oz, and that would be certainly the way to do it in style. But we'll wait for those calculations just to be sure. But you're right, Corey Preston in 4th is trying to hold off David Nenadic for 5th after that bump and run on the previous lap. They've dropped off quite a bit from Kurt Stenberg, who's quite comfortably on the podium now. Bump drafting almost down the main straight. David Nenadic goes down the inside of Corey Preston, and Corey Preston turns down across him and spins. That was deliberate. I'm sick of this, and I don't like it.
That was absolutely deliberate, and I think the race administrators here, Kurt Stenberg and Colin Warwick, are going to come down on that kind of behaviour like a ton of bricks. Have a look at this.
Well, I hope so. But
a little bit of unsettling there, and then he just turned him.
That is not on. That is absolutely rubbish, and I don't care whose side you're on. Both are doing it as bad as each other, and it's just not on. It is rubbish driving, and we're not here to watch that sort of absolute crap.
We certainly aren't. It's not something I really feel too comfortable with highlighting too much more in this broadcast, especially with how much other good racing we have going on around the track here. With Shaun Allan doing so well up in the lead, Dayne and Ethan Warren trying to slice their way through the field as well. Dayne's up to 9th. He's on the back of Brapp at the moment on that topic at the moment, and Ethan's up to 10th. So they're slowly making their way up, and it's making it quite hard for me to predict this race as it goes on. In terms of a quick calculation of the points margin as it stands would go to 328 points between Shaun Allan and Dayne Warren. So it gets a little bit shaved off, but I'm not sure if that's going to be enough when it comes to the end of the round. We'll see what happens. If Dayne Warren keeps progressing at the rate he does, the gap is now actually increased out to 334 points, with Dayne Warren moving up that one spot. Dayne Warren would have to finish low down in the field once again, with Shaun Allan winning for him to clinch the title. But it's looking pretty for him to keep the title alive until Bathurst, I should say. So it's still looking like, even though Dayne Warren is in 8th position with 2 laps to go in this race, he's looking like a shoo-in for the championship this round at least. But he's putting in a great performance to make his way back up the field stairs.
And Shaun Allan, take nothing away from him. He's done absolutely nothing wrong. He's done all he can to try and keep the championship alive to this point, and fair to say, short of a DNF from Dayne Warren, the current situation was probably the best he could have hoped for.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. It's going to make the championship fight just a little bit more enticing, and it's going to be that much more satisfying for Shaun Allan, knowing that he got his strategy right. He was there in terms of race pace when he needed to be, but I don't want to jinx him just yet because we've still got one lap left to run here, but there's not a huge amount in the way of Shaun Allan taking out this win here. It'll be win number, I just got to go back and have a look at the list. It'll be win number 6 for Shaun Allan this season if he can get it done. Win number 5, I should say.
I don't know if I want to bring it up, but Zach Baker is coming up behind Corey Preston. They're about half a second away from each other. To my mind, they should both be disqualified from this race, and Thomas McMillan should go up to 4th.
I'll keep one eye on that one to see what happens as a result, but we do have a lot more driving that's happening at the moment. Zach Baker's definitely driving with a mission, I can see at the moment. But Thomas McMillan and Alex Cattle are in a great battle for P6 and 7 at the moment. Alex Cattle doing a great job to hang on to the back there. Just trying to see who else we've got in the field who's performing quite well. It looks like there's a few of the battles have petered out a little bit so far, but we have seen, apart from what we've been seeing with the ZB Racing guys and Corey Preston, there's been some great battling up and down the field, hasn't there, in race 1, Stairs?
There has, and we've seen some people unfortunate with the strategy, but we've also seen some people benefit from the strategy, and Shaun Allan played it absolutely perfectly. He's just got one corner now between himself and victory in race 1, just like he did last week, and he is going to take another win for his championship. And a very, very formation finish between the two Race On Oz guys as Brody Steen finishes in 2nd. What a terrific sight that is. Very, very good to see. And then Kurt Stenberg, after what was unlikely when he was spun around on the safety car restart, manages to nab a podium, and I'm sure he'll be quite pleased with that as well.
He will indeed. So it's a great result there for Kurt Stenberg as well. And Brody Steen is very, very happy with that performance, ripping a massive skid over in turn 1. And why wouldn't he? Great performance from him, and everyone else has come to join him too.
Yeah, really, really good guy, Brody. Fantastic to see the 2nd place from him. It's his best result since the opening round, where he got a 2nd place in the first race of the season. So good to see him back up there. And then Shaun Allan, that would be his 5th win of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
It certainly would be. So that is Shaun Allan, win number 5 for him so far this season. A little bit far off the tally of Dayne Warren.
A little bit.
Up in the 20s.
Yeah,
and
but more than Ethan Warren, that's no mean feat. Ethan, of course, hasn't raced every round this year, but to have more wins than Ethan Warren is definitely an achievement.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've had a couple of places that have changed up since I put my calculations in, so I'm just trying to work out points. What I do know is that Kurt Stenberg is now officially out of the points race. So Shaun Allan, who just won race 1, is now the only driver who can challenge Dayne Warren for the championship with a gap of 334 points. He has to reduce that gap by 35 points for race 2. So to keep the championship alive, Shaun Allan has to win and Dayne Warren has to finish, I believe it is, so for 35 points, I've got to try and do some maths here. He has to finish 5th or lower, so it is definitely achievable for Shaun Allan to keep this championship alive. So Ethan Warren's stop-go penalty was removed. I just saw that in the group chat, so that penalty I imagine was a result of the safety car quasi-infringement there, so no start infringement for Ethan Warren, so he keeps his position too.
So if Shaun Allan finishes 1st, the equation for Dayne Warren is to finish 5th, or no lower than, to wrap up the championship.
I think if Dayne Warren finishes 4th, he's got the championship. I just have to double check. So so the gap is 334 points. So Dayne Warren would have to pull 35 points. No, Shaun Allan would have to pull 35 points to keep it alive. So he would have to win and have Dayne Warren finish 5th or lower.
Well, we just saw him win and Dayne Warren finish 5th or lower in the first race, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
It certainly isn't. You never know what can happen, indeed, because we did see that in that incident on the start last time out with Dayne Warren being punted to the back of the field, but he did come back and finish quite well in that race. So we are going straight into qualifying for race 2. You can support us on patreon.com/ApexRearWing. It's a lot of effort for us to put these broadcasts together, and we really do appreciate your support. So if you want to do that, you certainly can do that. And you can follow us on Facebook at Automobilista Supercars Championship. And we're just getting underway now for qualifying for race 2, which will set the order for at least the bottom 4 guys for the race and the top 10 guys for the shootout.
Yeah, huge flurry of activity on the exit of the pit lane, as we're used to seeing at the beginning of these qualifying sessions. Because as Matt absolutely correctly said, we are setting the top 10 for the shootout. So this will determine the bottom 4 who get knocked out of that qualifying session, who won't get to take part in the session. So far we have we've seen about half the cars take to the racetrack. There's still quite a few people in the pits, including Ethan. Well, Ethan's just made his way actually. Zach Baker, Shaun, Allan, Steve Warwick, David Nenich and Kurt Stenberg all sat in the pits. Everyone else out on the racetrack at the moment.
Kurt Stenberg's just posting in the server chat for everyone to see. This is qualifying immediately. Top 10 shootout to follow. 5 sets of tyres. Remember, braking is required in the race.
Yeah, that sounds like a bit of a response to some of the bad driving that we saw at the start of the race. We saw Zach Baker forgot where his brake pedal was a few times, and then a few other drivers thought there was a corner where there wasn't one.
Hopefully we don't see more of that standard of driving in race 2. Well, race 2 is a little bit of a longer race, 32 laps with 1 compulsory pit stop, but some drivers will definitely attempt to make it a 2-stopper on faster, soft tyres, and that could determine what they do in qualifying as well. So we're just having a look at Alex Cattle, who actually finished P6 in that last race, which, if I'm not mistaken, is his best finish so far. It equals his best finish so far this season. He got a P6 in the last round at the Bend full circuit, and he's equaled that in race 1 here. So great stuff from Alex Cattle, and he's out trying to post his first qualifying lap now.
Yeah, that went a little bit under the radar, but hugely well done to Alex Cattle there, keeping his nose out of trouble in what was quite a hectic race with a lot going on.
Hectic it certainly was, and hopefully it's hectic in the right ways for race 2, as we're just waiting for a couple of times to come on the board. So 1:16.3 is what we know is pretty quick around here. That's around the benchmark for qualifying laps and also for fast laps in the race if you're Dayne Warren and you know how to put down a quick lap. But let's see what they can do. They may be a little bit more fatigued from the first race. Never really know with sim racing though, and I'm not really an expert on the matter, so it's hard for me to tell what's going to influence those times, but keep an eye out for those sort of times. 1:16.3. If you can beat that, or if you can match that, you're doing pretty well. 1:17.09 is the benchmark from Colin Warwick so far, and it's a 1:16.5 already from Dayne Warren, so we're getting pretty close as it stands.
Yeah, he's good at getting a good lap done out of the box. Colin Warwick second, Corey Preston in third. Alex Cattle slots in a couple of tenths behind him, and then Thomas McMillan splits them to go third. RSM Latino in 6th place, so lap times coming in thick and fast as it stands.
Ethan Warren's gone quickest now with a 1:16.464. Only 600ths of a second faster than his brother Dayne. So those two, in terms of one lap pace, are very evenly matched once again at the front.
We now have 10 times on the board, so Brapp is the man on the bubble as it stands.
He is indeed. The bubble is going to be the main thing to watch out for, of course, because the top 10 drivers will go through to the shootout and have one more chance to improve their times. And we're just waiting for a few more guys to get their times on the board. There's 14 drivers out on the field in total, and a few of them are about to start posting times. Kurt Stenberg's going to cross the line with a 1:19.5.
Oh, that's not good
So
enough.
that's a little bit off what he should be doing. He may have gone off the track at some point, and he'll have to work pretty hard to get himself into that top 10 bubble if he wants a chance to contest the shootout. So Brapp is at risk, and Kurt Stenberg is the best placed driver to get himself out of that the elimination phase.
We've got Zach Baker on a lap currently. He hasn't yet set a time, neither has his teammate David Nenich or Steve Warwick. So
LR in the chat saying, yeah, Brapp. And you'll have to keep encouraging him if you want him to get through the top 10 shootout, because it's going to be pretty tough for him to stay up there. He's coming to the pits now to reconvene, make some strategy changes, maybe throw on a different set of tyres, put a little bit of a splash of petrol in for one last tilt at the top 10.
So just watching Zach Baker, his teammate David Nededic is about to come to the line and he goes 12th with his time, so he's had some sort of issue with that lap as well. It's 7 seconds adrift. We're watching Zach Baker now. What can he manage in his lap time? It is 7th place, so he knocks Brap out of the 10 into 11th place.
And that puts Brodie Steen on the bubble, who was of course on the podium in 2nd place for that last race, so he'll have to want to get out there and get another lap time under his belt as soon as he can.
We've also got Steve Warwick about to start a lap time. He is the last driver to set a lap time, so he is about a minute and a half away from doing that. Kurt Stenberg has just improved. He's gone 5th with that lap.
Had a brief local yellow there at turn 6 because Shaun Allan had spun out and gone wide. He's currently sitting in P6 with his lap time, so he's not at too much risk at the moment, but as lap times come down, he may start to find himself increasingly closer to the bubble. The driver on the bubble at the moment is RSM Latino. He's been one of our main campaigners in the Super 2 series. We're just seeing a replay of Shaun Allan just jumping on the anchors a little bit too hard there and missing his braking marker into turn 6. So
tricky braking zone, that one, isn't it?
It is a bit of a tough one. We saw in the main game Todd Hazelwood getting a little bit crossed up there, trying to jump onto the anchors and getting to the dirty stuff on the side of the track. So it's an interesting corner for all comers. And RSM Latino is currently trying his best. Watching Steve Warwick, who hasn't yet put a time down, and is looking to get up into the top 10 of the grid so he can make his way into the shootout, hopefully. RSM Latino's up on his personal best by almost 1/10 of a second, but it's going to be close to Alex Cattle. So depending on what he can do in the next sector, he may actually leapfrog Alex Cattle and make his way into 9th and get himself out of the bubble. But he's currently at risk, and Brodie Steen is unable to improve thus far and get himself out of 11th.
The man who finished 2nd in the first race. Steve Warwick goes 13th with his lap, so he can't get himself into the 10. We're watching now RSM Latino, who is very, very close to his PB, but slightly down on it.
Brodie Steen, I'm going to keep an eye on him to see what he can do out of 11th to see if he can make his way up, because it'd be great to see him in the shootout alongside his teammate Shaun Allan. He just crossed the line to start another flying lap now. He threw his last lap away to get sort of prepared for it, and RSM Latino is coming into the box. So there's only 2 minutes 44, and I'd say that is RSM Latino's session done and dusted, because he's not going to have another chance to come out, put an out lap in, and then set another lap time that improves.
Now this is what happened a few moments ago to David Nededic. Whoops, we just missed the start of that replay, but he was pushing hard to try and get himself into the 10, went wide and into the wall. So David Nededic might be struggling to get into the 10 as well. So some high profile omissions from this top 10 shootout as it stands, unless they can pull something out at the death.
Almost the exact same thing that happened to Dayne Warren in qualifying 1, but just a different end of the car hitting the fence first.
So Brodie Steen's probably the most likely of the guys currently in the bottom 4 to jump into the top 10. David Nededic needs to get out onto the racetrack very soon, because there's a minute 50 left on the clock and he might run out of time. He's in the pits currently. We're watching Brodie Steen come around the final corner to the line.
And it's not enough.
No, he did improve on his time. He found 0.4 of a second, but it just wasn't enough. He needed to find another 0.5 tenth.
He found 0.4, but Alex Cattle found a little bit more. So he was able to improve as well on his personal time and keep himself in 9th.
Great job from Alex
Actually, no,
Cattle
the gap is to RSM Latino, so I've got that one all crossed up.
But it's a great job from Alex Cattle to out-qualify the main game Race on Oz driver. He is in the satellite car, in the development Race on Oz car. So he's gone from strength to strength, and at the moment Brodie Steen seems to be struggling a little bit. We know he's got the race pace. Actually, an update on David Nededic, he hasn't come out of the pits, so he will not be taking part in this top 10 shootout. We're waiting on laps from Brab and Steve Warwick.
Well, it's a shame because you don't really see David Nededic floating down in the bottom half of qualifying very often. So hopefully he's got the right mindset leading into the next race here, where he can put in a great performance and a great show for us on camera. Brodie Steen is still struggling to get out of 11th at the moment. When he crosses the line, he'll have one more chance because the timer hasn't ticked over 0 just yet. He's rounding the final corner now.
No, that's it.
No, he's going to pull the pin. He's going to come into the pits and not make his way into the top 10. It's not such a massive deal because we've seen that Brodie Steen can make his way through the field. He's got great race pace, as we were saying. and he does have a bit more time to do that in race 2 because it's a 32-lap race that he has to deal with.
Big moment there for Steve Warwick as he tries to make his bid for the top 10, but as it stands, it's Ethan Warren who's out-qualified his brother Dayne, Thomas McMillan in 3rd, Colin Warwick in 4th, Zach Baker up in 5th from Kurt Stenberg, very close those two, Shaun Allan down there in 7th, the race winner from race 1, Corey Preston in 8th, and Alex Cattle and RSM Latino, the last two in the top 10. We're watching with keen eyes Brap and Steve Warwick to see if they can get out of the bottom 4, because Brody Steen and David Nenadich have already put the queue in the rack.
Brap certainly won't be able to, and he's pulling into the pits to put an end to that lap. He made a mistake earlier on, and so is Steve Warwick. So that's qualifying done for race 2, and that means we have an order for the top 10 shootout. So RSM Latino in 10th place in qualifying is going to be the first car out on track for the top 10 shootout in just a moment.
Well, a few surprises there, I think it has to be said. Well done to Alex Cattle. No disrespect to him, but I thought that we'd see Brody Steen and David Nenadich ahead of him, so he's done extremely well to get himself into the top 10. And RSM Latino, who is a Super 2 regular, seeing him up there in the top 10 is also good, but I don't think it's the first time we have seen him in the top 10 shootout.
Yeah, it's great to see him up there, of course. He's one of our seasoned competitors, one of the main championship protagonists in the Super 2 series, I believe, alongside Benjamin Dahlia, but I'm not sure what the Super 2 championship battle is looking like at the moment, so you might have to correct me on that one. But we know he's a quick driver, and he's always trying to do the best he can to put in a great performance when he makes appearances in the main game. So let's see what he can do when he is the first cab off the rank in the top 10 shootout coming up very, very shortly, folks.
Yep, they're just setting the server now, and we are starting to see RSM Latino make his way into the pit lane. The server admins will be letting the drivers know when it is their turn to go, so that we have a seamless shootout. And they are a lot of fun, these shootouts. They tend to work very, very well indeed. Look forward to them every time we get to have one.
There's no such thing as a boring top 10 shootout, is there, Stairs?
No, because you just never know. You never know, and you always get a few surprises, a few that you were expecting to perhaps be pole protagonists end up bidding their lap and having to start from the back end of the top 10.
You just hang on every single corner, don't you? And RSM Latino is the loneliest man in Tailem Bend at the moment, sitting out on the track all on his own. Spins up the rear tyres, and he is away on his outlap. So he'll be making his way around the track, just trying to get as much temperature into those tyres and brakes as he possibly can before he makes a tilt at what is hopefully the fastest lap he can possibly do around this circuit.
Takes some effort to be the loneliest man in Tailem Bend. It's not a particularly well-populated part of the world.
No, it isn't, is it?
We talked about Old Tailem Town last year, if you're ever in Tailem Bend. Certainly an interesting relic of the past to go visit. Old Tailem Town, an old man, I think he's in his 80s, he must be approaching 90 now, runs it, and he grabbed basically old pioneer buildings from all over the country, put them on the back of trucks and took them to Tailem Bend and put them up in this fairly large property. And called it Old Tailem Town. It's Australia's largest pioneer village, I believe.
I don't find myself in South Australia very often, but next time I get over there I'll have to take a look, because that sounds pretty cool actually.
It's on the way if you're driving from Melbourne, so there you go.
I do remember the area around Tailem Bend being very vast,
yes,
for lack of a better word.
Well, we talked about that. The circuit, it's not very detailed. No, it is actually. That's pretty much what's there. It's very flat.
There's a couple of trees here and there, but that's about all you're going to see here at Tailem Bend. So it takes a little bit of experience as a viewer to sort of get a grasp on what part of the track you're looking at any one time. And most of that sort of comes from knowing what the camera's doing and where the camera's positioned at each corner. So you can get because there's not a huge amount of landmarks. There's a couple of grandstands along the main straight, and you've got to sort of look out for the right advertising hoardings. I know Villiers Pies is pretty unique to turn 9, I think it is.
You got
so you know what corner you're at when you see that one.
Jim Beam on turn 1 and 2, and when you see that sign, the sign kind of looks like it would to someone who's sampled quite a bit of the product. It's a bit blurry, that sign. I think I did turn down some of the advertising hoarding settings so that I could try and relinquish or get rid of some of the stuttering issues we were having on the stream. It seems to be working quite well. We have had no such issues for a few weeks now. But it's been a pretty clean lap so far from RSM Latino.
Oh, I lost track of time. I thought he was still on his out lap. Turns out he's posting his actual lap time. I'm completely sorry. So he's coming around the final corner now, and RSM Latino is about to come and set the benchmark lap for this top 10 shootout. He's looking pretty good so far, but he's a little bit off the pace of what you'd normally expect to see in qualifying. It's going to be a 1:18.182. He is provisionally on pole, but we should expect to see times coming down to almost 2 seconds faster than that. 1:16.3 is what we've seen so far tonight. 1:16.46 I think was the fastest time in the last qualifying session. And now we're seeing Alex Cattle out on track, coming through the final corner before he starts his flying lap, and we're expecting pretty big things from him, aren't we, downstairs?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's impressed me tonight, and he's certainly been a driver on the up and up. You mentioned his trend of form has only gone up in recent rounds, and I think he had a little brief foray into Super 2 where he collected a win or two, and I think that's done wonders for his confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And now he's found himself in the top 10 shootout here at Taylor and Bend, which is fantastic to see. And like you said, faster than his brethren in the race on Oz stable, Brody Steen, in qualifying at the very least. So it's a great chance to see what he can do in terms of race pace, and he is currently up on RSM Latino's time. 0.171 is the margin between Alex Cattle and RSM Latino at the first sector split.
Yeah, that's good. He's got nothing to lose in this one. He might as well throw everything at it, because if he mucks it up, he's only going to be one spot behind where he would have been expected to start the race, having qualified ninth to get into this shootout. So a great job so far from Alex Cattle, and he's found even more time through that middle sector. This is a brilliant lap from Alex Cattle. He's half a second up on RSM Latino.
Great stuff, and if he keeps that sort of gap up, he'll be well into the 1:17s and possibly even the 16s, depending on how he does through Sector 3. He's looking very neat and tidy so far through those final two corners. He's full beans down the main straight. What can he do when he hits the control line? It's a 1:17.49, so he's up almost 7/10 of a second, and he leapfrogs RSM Latino as we stand at the moment.
Well, that's a terrific lap from Alex Cattle. Let's see what Corey Preston can do. He's got no one to hit on this shootout lap, so that should be a benefit for him.
Without wanting to throw him under the bus too much here, because we did see some unfortunate driving standards coming from Corey Preston, the ZB Racing guys there. I'd want to hope he's atoned for his sins, if there were such sins in the first race. I do like to give drivers the benefit of the doubt when I possibly can, and not lead too much of a witch hunt into them. So let's see what Corey Preston can do. This is his redemption run. Whether he can put in a good performance in qualifying, get himself in a nice spot for the race and perform well, because before all those accidents were happening, Corey Preston was actually in a really, really good spot for his experience. He was running 5th, I believe, so far. And given his little experience he's had so far in the championship, well, he actually did finish 5th in the race. He was running P6 or P4 at some point. By far his best finish so far. So he's definitely a quick driver. It's just a matter of whether you can put that in a clean performance, which we hopefully will see for race 2. They'll be coming up in the first sector split pretty soon, I would imagine. And it's a 27.243, which is just a little bit up on Alex Cattle's time. So he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, he was all over the curb at 1, so he's pushing very, very hard. And I would expect if he has a clean middle and final sector, he should pull away a little bit from the time that Alex Cattle has. As you said, he is a quick driver. When the red mist doesn't come down, he can certainly put down some good results, as we have seen in the past. So it looks pretty good so far, but the time makes a liar of me. I thought he would stretch away there, but that just goes to show how strong Alex Cattle's middle sector was, and Corey Preston lights up the rears on the exit of the penultimate corner, so he might end up behind Alex Cattle here.
Yeah, that's going to cost him a bit of time on the exit of turn number 11 there, and we'll see what he can do when he crosses the line.
Yeah.
1:17.74, so he's down a quarter of a second on Alex Cattle's time, and Cattle will start no lower than 8th, which is an improvement on what he could do in qualifying. So that's a great performance so far from Alex Cattle. We of course know that he has the potential to improve even further. And now out on track we see, I believe it is Shaun Allan, race 1's winner.
Yep, race 1 winner. He'll be disappointed with where he ended up in the qualifying to get into the shootout, but he may have just thought of that as a banker, and now he's going to unleash his real pace. Oops.
Absolutely, we don't really know what the pace is like in qualifying until they take to the top 10 shootout, because some of these guys might want to sandbag a little bit. He's running down full pelt across that bump on the main straight, jumps on the brakes as hard as he can with 2 feet into turn 1. You really have to here because it's a very tight corner. It's a great place to start a race here through that long turn 2, where you've got to sort of, it reminds me of the extra the chase at Bathurst, that section there actually, because you have to try and keep it fully committed on the throttle as you go through that long left-hander. And at the first sector split, he's up just over a quarter of a second, so he's looking pretty good. Dips 2 wheels in the grass on the run into turn 6, but it hasn't hampered him too much. He's on the brakes, very neat and tidy through turn 6. That's a great run through that corner for him.
Yeah, that tendency for drivers to dip 2 wheels, we've seen a few of them that bite as they lost control of the car and spat into the wall, but they're clearly trying to carry as much speed as they possibly can through there. I don't know if they do it flat, but they're certainly trying to, and that just shows that Shaun Allan is trying very hard here, and he's found another 10th through the middle sector. This is a really good lap from Shaun Allan.
Great lap so far, and hopefully he can keep up the pace in the third sector, which seems to have been the one that's caught a few of these drivers by surprise, especially Corey Prest on the last lap. Dips a couple of wheels in the dirt on the exit of turn number 12. What does he do? It's a 1:17.020. Almost half a second up on Alex Cuttle's lap. That's a great lap from Shaun Allan, and that one will be unchallenged at the top for hopefully a little while when we see the next few guys come out. That's a great lap from Shaun.
Next driver off the rank is Kurt Stenberg, the champion defending. He was the champion defending. He has relinquished his chance of defending that championship in the last race. He is officially out of it, so he's got absolutely nothing to lose from this point. I expect to see him put in a strong lap here.
No holding back for Kurt Stenberg. Jumps on the brakes into turn 1. Very neat and tidy, and I'm not sure if it is actually full throttle. It definitely isn't. Just went on board, and it looks like the sort of corner that you want to take full throttle, but you just can't. And it gets a little tiny bit taily through turn 3, as a matter of fact. Hopefully it doesn't cut into his first sector split too much. And we'll see. It actually has cut in a little bit, so he's down marginally on Shaun Allan's time.
And he didn't dip 2 wheels on the grass. You can see the car a little bit out of shape there. Very, very close to the time set by Shaun Allan. I'm very, very interested to see what the second sector split time is like.
Might start watching some of these guys from the onboard actually, so I can listen to what they're doing in the car, because that's always an important gauge to know how they treat the different corners around this tail and bend circuit. Through the second sector split, has he improved? No, he's down 0.067 on Shaun Allan's time, so it's so close. And it's negligible, the difference between those two guys, but obviously negligibility doesn't matter when you're looking at times that are accurate to the thousandth of a second. You're either ahead or you're not. Let's see what Kurt Stenberg can do as he crosses that pit lane entry curb. Hits the line. It's a 1:17.015. He's up by 5 thousandths of a second on Shaun Allan. That is as close as you'd like.
Clutch lap from Kurt Stenberg. He was down at every sector split but the one that counted, and he found just that little bit he needed in the final sector. A great lap there from Kurt Stenberg to take provisional pole. We're not yet in the 16s, but we're edging ever closer.
So close to the 16s, and Zach Baker is just getting some last minute heat into his brakes as he goes around turn 11, and he'll be getting ready for his lap right about now. He's got plenty of temp in those tyres, I would hope, and he's going full send around turn 12, and he'll be making his way to the control line to start his flying lap now, Stairs.
Yep, another redemption round, as you said. Redemption lap hopefully starts now from Zach Baker. Covered himself in shame in race 1, as did Corey Preston. We don't know the full story there, but frankly I don't care who started it. Now it's all about this qualifying lap, and it's pretty clean so far.
Yeah, not looking too bad at the moment. Gentle on the throttle, but he's put down as much power as he possibly can out of turn 3, and he's kept it on the black stuff without getting too wobbly at the moment, but he is down just marginally. He's still very close to the times of Shaun Allan and Kurt Stenberg. Keep in mind that Kurt Stenberg was down on Shaun Allan's first sector split as well, so Allan still has the fastest first and second sectors of anyone in this session so far, and we'll see what that means when Zach Baker comes up onto the second sector. He's still keeping it pretty tight around turns number 8 and 9. He'll be coming up on the second split very soon, so it's pretty close. There's a little tiny wobble there out of turn 9 into turn 10. Will it cut into his time? Marginally.
Little
He's
bit.
down a tenth of a second now. A tenth of a second exactly, as a matter of fact.
Final sector, if he can nail this, he might be in with a shot. But having said that, I reckon Kurt Stenberg did it as close to perfectly as you could potentially do it. So he might find himself either in first or in third. I don't see him splitting second at the moment. Let's see what Zach Baker does. It's 2/10 off, and he will slot into third place.
2/10 off, and he's down in third. That's how close it is at the top at the moment between Kurt Stenberg and Shaun Allan. And next car out on track should be Colin Warwick, who's now rounding, I believe, turn 10, making his way to turn 11 in the Warwick Racing ZB Commodore. And he'll be looking to get a good lap on the board after he finished down in 12th, 11th as a result of his unfortunate involvement in some of those accidents at turn 1, I believe it was. So Colin Warwick, we know he's a lot faster than that. He's been on the podium a couple of times at least. He's been on the podium 3 times, as a matter of fact, in his 30 starts in this season so far. So is this going to be podium number 4? Let's find out. It starts now in the top 10 shootout as he jumps on the brakes into turn 1. He's looking pretty good. He gets, that's not looking good at all.
No.
He went in way too hot.
Cooked it straight away.
Cooked it immediately, which is a shame to see because that makes it such a... He's turned the lights off as well. He knows it. That's really thrown his lap away, unfortunately. So he's not even going to try and put in the rest of the lap here. Or he hopefully will. Let's see what he can do. But the problem is he's going to be down 1.2 seconds on Kurt Stenberg's first sector time. When you look at the fact that RSM Latino's total time is 1.1 seconds down, it is a shame because it means Colin Warwick is almost certainly going to be finishing 10th in this top 10 shootout. And it, even though he did lose a bit of time in the turn 1 excursion there, he could have recovered quite a bit of that and started a little bit further up than 10th, I would have thought.
Well, the beauty of if you do make a mistake when there are still cars left to finish laps is that you can push on and hope someone else makes a mistake. He is very close to RSM Latino's time. If he has a stronger final sector, he could still finish ahead of RSM Latino here.
This is very true. He's pulling into the pits, as a matter of fact, so he's throwing that lap quite away. He could have, I'm not sure why he's done that now that you mention it. So Colin Warwick...
I know it's one position, but one position's better than no positions. But
certainly is, and that is 10th position in the shootout for Colin Warwick. And now Thomas McMillan is looking to post a good lap time. And Thomas McMillan, I think, is a driver who most embodies the spirit of win it or bin it so far this season.
Colin Warwick actually set the fastest middle sector on that aborted lap that he just did.
Really?
28.122, which was about, well, the next closest was Shaun Allan with a 28.138. So he was pushing, and he had a chance to nab RSM Latino there. I don't know why he didn't go on with it.
Well, he may have just been a little bit disenfranchised by the mistake that he made there. Hopefully he's not feeling too down about it in the race. And we're looking at Thomas McMillan, who was a little bit shaky through turn 2 and 3, but he's up 0.013 on Kurt Stenberg's time. And Thomas McMillan, as I was saying just before, is a very quick driver, but very win it or bin it. Even though he scored 2 wins and 5 podium positions, he's currently 10th in the championship as a result of 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, 10, 11, 13 DNFs so far this season.
Yeah, he was aiming to have a few less DNFs when he talked to us at the beginning of the year, and it certainly didn't start out very well for him. But I've been impressed with what I've seen from Thomas McMillan in the last few rounds. This sort of Super September where we've had races back to back to back. I think he's found himself in some sort of form and he's got better. And it looks like he's going to topple Kurt Stenberg for provisional pole here.
He got a win in the Darwin Triple Crown. His last podium was at Townsville, and he is provisional pole with a 1:16.923. That is the fastest lap we've seen so far. And there's only 2 drivers left to come. That would be the Warren brothers of Ethan and Dayne, with Ethan now currently circulating. Dayne currently circulating on track, having been beaten by Ethan in qualifying, looking to beat that by as much of a margin as he can. And we know that Dayne Warren is a very strong chance to do that, given that he can come out in the qualifying session, post a 1:16.5, and then call a session. So let's see what he can do in the shootout.
Birthday boy, pole sitter for race 1. And not race winner in race 1. It didn't go his way. The strategy fell apart for both the Warren brothers, with Dayne finishing all the way down in, 7th place? Or was it 7th or 8th?
8th he ended up.
There you go, and his brother Ethan behind him in 9th. So he's looking to change that, as he hasn't got a win at the Bend Motorsport Park in this championship so far, but he's up by nearly 0.2 of a second on the first sector split time set by Thomas McMillan.
Just notice some of the differing lines that the drivers take through turn 1 and 2. Dayne Warren definitely takes it all the way to the outside of the track in turn 1 and takes a tight entry into the long left turn 2. But a few of the guys stick pretty close to the rubbered-in racing line that you're seeing here on the track surface. But it seems to be working pretty well for Dayne Warren. He's up almost 0.4 of a second as he goes through the second sector split. So he's strong through that second sector. He's probably the quickest man all the way around the track so far. As a matter of fact, he's purple. It seems to be purple the entire way around the track. So he's looking pretty good. As he comes across the line, it'll be a 1:16.342. Fantastic lap from Dayne Warren.
Not bad. Pretty good. Gauntlet has been thrown down. Can
Not
Ethan
too
Warren,
shabby indeed.
Not too shabby indeed. Can Ethan Warren do anything about a 1:16.3? I reckon he'd have a chance if it was a full-out qualifying session, but in a shootout, that's a tall order.
It's very tall indeed, but we'll see what can happen because we have seen Ethan Warren best his brother quite a few times of late, especially since he's been jumping back in the car since the Darwin SuperSprint. He's had 3 wins. 2 of those were last time out at the Bend. So he had quite a good performance in that round as well. So he knows his track very well. And he drifts a little bit further out through turn 1, not as far out as Dayne did. Didn't smack the outside curb straight away. So that may be carrying a little bit more speed through turns 2 and 3. We'll see what that looks like when he comes to the first sector split. Is he going to be up on his brother's time? No, 0.02 of a second in it. But it's basically negligible when you look at it like that. But that negligibility, as I said, doesn't count when you get to the finish line.
It is tight. It is tight. Blair Warren said, I think Ethan will give him a run for his money at the start of this broadcast in the live chat. And, well, few would know better than their own father. So that is mighty, mighty tight. Let's see what it is to the second sector split. He's up, he's up, he's up.
Giving himself a bit of space to play with as well on for the standards of the Warren brothers, of course, in terms of their margins. 0.083 of a second is quite a bit in terms of a gap between these two guys. He's looking very neat and tidy through turns 11 and 12, taking a lot of runoff on the exit of the curb. What's he got for us?
Ooh,
second!
He lost it.
1:16.363. So that is yet another pole position for Dayne Warren going into race 2, and that's 25 pole positions so far this season for Dayne Warren, with his brother Ethan lining up alongside him by a gap of 0.021 of a second on the front row of the grid stairs.
That is a tight margin. 0.02 of a second, and that could have gone either way. It seesawed, didn't it, during that lap?
It really did. It just goes to show you how evenly matched those brothers are in their skill and just where they tend to differ, and little tiny variances in the lines around certain laps. So the qualifying order is Dayne Warren, followed by Ethan for the first row. Thomas McMillan qualifies 3rd ahead of Kurt Stenberg. Shaun Allan, race winner in race 1, is 5th alongside Zach Baker in P6. Alex Cattle puts in a great performance to finish 7th in the top 10 shootout, and hopefully he can convert that to a good race result. Who have we got next? We do have Corey Preston in P8, with RSM Latino 9th, and Colin Warwick not setting a lap will be starting from 10th.
Well, you said it at the beginning of that shootout. They are always exciting, aren't they? And that proved to be no different.
Certainly was a thrilling shootout. And for the last 4 positions on the grid, I believe it is Brody Steen 11th, Steve Warwick 12th, Braff will be 13th, and David Nenadich, having not put in another qualifying lap, will be starting from the back of the grid for race 2, 32 lapper. But before that, we've got a short break, don't we, Stairs?
Yes, we will be back very shortly with all the action from race 2, so don't go anywhere.
All the information you want about the Automobilista Supercars Championship is now all in one place. Visit asc.rocksolidmates.com for all the official ASC content, including season calendars, results and championship points, broadcast information, rules and regulations, lap records, and more. You can also get updates on our official ASC Facebook page. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell notification icon to get notified whenever we go live for all championship races.
The Automobilista Supercars Championship is proudly brought to you by RSM, Rock Solid Mates, ARW, Apex Rear Wing, CW, Colin Warwick Designs, and Jinx Shifters.
Welcome back to the Bend Motorsport Park for the second of 2 weeks at this particular venue, this time using the shorter western layout as we did in the real life event when the Supercars Championship made its way over here. And we've just had a thrilling conclusion to the top 10 shootout in which Ethan Warren narrowly missed out on pole position with Dayne Warren just behind with Ethan Warren just behind Dayne, 0.02 of a second the difference in the end, but Ethan was slightly up through the middle sector, so one that could have gone either way, and a few surprises. Most notably, a huge congratulations to Alex Cattle for having quite a strong shootout, and well, the grid is set for a 32 lap race, 108.8 kilometres around this 3.4 kilometre circuit. We're going to see some strategy, that's for sure. They get 5 sets of tyres, and that has been an issue in the past with drivers who've used too many sets of tyres to get into the shootout, and then they've of course burned another set to get into the shootout. And we have seen drivers not quite making it to the end when they've had to put on a used set in the race, and that certainly is a factor with the longer races. So if you had to have more than one run to get into the shootout, then you already have to burn three sets of tyres in your qualifying, and then that only leaves 2 for the race. So we don't really know whether people are going to do 1 stop or 2 stop, but it will be very interesting to see.
Yeah, on paper it seems like the best strategy is to just sort of save your tyres through qualifying and use the extra length of the race that you have at your disposal to make your way back up, and with some fresh tyres at your disposal. But obviously, different drivers like to work in different ways. Some drivers prefer to qualify well and defend, and some drivers are definitely better at that. Other drivers, we see Jake Maloney as a particular practitioner of this school of thought, is to just not even worry about qualifying and just smash your way through the field in the race. And that could definitely be a strategy. Dayne Warren definitely does that very well, even though he qualifies at the front. When he finds himself at the back of the grid, he's already able to push through it quite easily. So you can always factor in Dayne Warren for a spot high up the finishing order, even though he was 8th last time out due to a miscalculation of his pit strategy. He failed to come into the pits when the safety car was out, and that cost him dearly, evidently, as the guys behind him were able to make up a lot more time on him as a result of that. We've got a few more seconds left in the warm-up now. A couple of guys practicing their starts, and we'll be going into race number 31 of the season. Race 2 here of round 13, quite shortly, Stairs.
Yeah, I'm seeing Dayne do quite a few practice starts in this warm-up session. I think he's a little bit underwhelmed with the starts he's been getting lately. He's been getting beaten by Ethan and Thomas McMillan. In fact, it was probably a contributing factor to that first corner pile-up we saw in race 1, was the fact that Dayne just didn't get underway and everyone was diving up the inside of everyone.
Well, what happened there? Did he stall the engine when he was trying to start there? Is that what happened? Or did he just not get away at all for some reason?
He didn't have a terrible launch. It just wasn't as good as his brothers.
Well, last race here in the Bend 2, the round tonight, I should say, he definitely bogged it down a little bit. But I'm sort of thinking last time out where he literally got beaten up physically by the whole field as they came and rear-ended him because he didn't get off the line at all. I'm wondering if that was an issue of him stalling the car.
That was him having it in neutral and forgetting to put it into gear.
Yeah, that'll do it.
It looks like we were about ready for a start, but the warm-up session has just been reset, so something potentially is just being rectified. It might be the order of the final 4 that's being fixed, because of course we do the original qualifying session to determine the top 10 for the shootout in a practice session. And then in terms of the game, the shootout is the actual qualifying session, but then the bottom 4 will have to be set manually by the steward. So it looks like that's been fixed, and we've just rolled through into the race session.
Yep, just Kurt Stenberg taking a little bit more time as the admin of the series to get everyone in the right starting order there for the race, and we'll be getting underway in just under a minute's time here for race 2 at the bend. It's going to be a cracker of a race. 32 laps coming up with one compulsory pit stop. But as we've been saying, some drivers are going to take 2 with soft tyres, and we'll see how that plays out in terms of strategy. They're all starting to make their way onto the grid now.
Yep, just the front 2 waiting a little bit longer than everyone else. I think we've got everyone but Kurt Stenberg and the 2 Warren brothers, I believe. Dayne's just made his way on. Kurt Stenberg has just made his way on. We're just waiting for Ethan as well.
Maybe just taking an extra minute to get himself composed. There he is on the grid, and we'll be getting underway for the formation lap in just a moment's time. The revs are starting to build a little bit. If it was an Apex rear wing event, Goofball Antics would be blasting the horn of the headlights at the moment, waiting to get underway. But we are underway for the formation lap, and it is Dayne Warren who takes his 25th pole of the season, and he'll be starting from P1 after that top 10 shootout alongside his brother Ethan Warren. They had great duels for the first half of the race in race 1, but they failed to take the pit stop when the safety car came out, and that dropped them back to 8th and 9th respectively. What can they do here in race 1? Dayne Warren's got a championship to win. Can he do it this time out? It's looking pretty likely, but you never know. Thomas McMillan is starting from 3rd in the Pleb Simsport ZB Commodore with Kurt Stenberg, who's just been knocked out of championship contention and will have to relinquish his crown at the end of this race, season, starting from P4. Shaun Allan, the only driver left in the field who can challenge for the championship with 334 points, the gap to Dayne Warren. Shaun Allan starting from 5th, and he'll have to reverse that position. He'll have to win the race with Dayne Warren finishing 5th or lower if Shaun Allan wants to drag this onto Bathurst, but we'll have to see what happens there. Zach Baker had a terrible race in race 1. Let's hope he can atone for that in race 2 and improve a little bit there. Alex Callell has a fantastic start on his hands. He'll be starting from 7th position, looking to get his best finishing result again. He finished 6th in the last race. Can he improve a little bit further from 7th on the grid? Only time will tell. Corey Preston was looking pretty quick in that last race as well, but he had some incidents of his own to get under his belt. He'll have to put that behind him and make sure he can finish well if he wants to improve further than 8th. RSM Latino, our normal competitor in the Super 2 series, who's been practicing quite a bit here in the main game, is up into 9th after a great performance in the shootout. Colin Warwick, who threw away his shootout lap unfortunately after a mistake at turn 1, will be starting this race from an uncharacteristically low 10th, but we know he's faster than that. We'll see what he can do. Speaking of faster than what he can do here, Brody Steen, who was 2nd in the last race, is 11th on the grid for this race. Can he improve? We saw him push through the field a bit in the early stages of the race. Tyre management is going to be a big one for Brody Steen. Let's see what he can do depending on what strategy he decides to take. Next to him on the grid will be Steve Warwick, of course, father of Colin Warwick, who's down in 12th position. Barap behind them in 13th, unlucky for some. And David Nedidich, who was qualifying pretty poorly as well and didn't have the greatest race in race 1, will be starting at a 14th. Let's see what he can do from the back of the grid stairs.
Masterfully done there, Matty. That's the grid ready for action. And we are moments away from a race start once we get everyone lined up. Just the last couple of cars rolling into their spots now. And once again, we've got a tantalizing drag race to the first corner between the Warren brothers. Starting now, and this time Dayne gets a much better start, but Ethan is equal to the task. It is the inside line for Ethan, and they all converge towards the first corner of the top 4 as Ethan Warren looks like he's going to get the whole shot through into the lead. Kurt Stenberg will have a look. Dayne Warren will try and drive around the outside of his brother, and he gets back through into the lead. A great turn 1 from Dayne.
Great move there from Dayne Warren, and the rest of the action behind them seems to be pretty uneventful so far, which is good to see. Everyone is still sitting on the black stuff, making their way around, and it is Dayne Warren who leads just in front of his brother Ethan, with Thomas McMillan behind in 3rd.
So a much cleaner start than the one we saw in the first race. No one spinning or crashing so far, and meanwhile Ethan Warren is having a little bit of a rat-a-tat-tat on the back of Dayne Warren. Thomas McMillan wants to buy into that one as well, so you know that Ethan's not going to give it to his brother Dayne on a platter, even though it is his 21st birthday.
It is his birthday indeed, and he'll be hoping to get a win on the board. He finished 8th in the first race, but he's in the box seat to turn that around right about now. No incidents further back, so no safety cars to deal with just yet. All 14 cars still running. Dayne Warren is leading onto the main straight ahead of his brother Ethan Warren, with Thomas McMillan in 3rd. Kurt Stenberg is still sitting steady in 4th, with Corey Preston having made up 3 spots so far. He's currently sitting in P5. Ethan Warren Having a look down the outside, he's pulled that move off last race. Can he do it again here? He doesn't have the pace to get alongside his brother, and Dayne Warren will defend successfully for the time being into turn 1 and 2.
The man with the best view of that battle is Thomas McMillan. We're looking at the front of his car, the VB Pleb Sim Sports ZB Commodore, and he's looking ahead at the two Warren brothers as Ethan gets a little bit wiggly on the curb there. And Dayne Warren just pulls away a couple of car lengths, but that all closes up as they all go a little bit wide there. And Thomas McMillan loses quite a few car lengths through that turn 6 hairpin.
Yeah, he does indeed, and it's a pretty tricky track in terms of getting your car in the right spot there. And I was saying earlier that there's a few hot spots in passing zones being turn 1, turn 6 and 11, but we're seeing a lot of side-by-side action, especially from these two guys in all sorts of parts of the track here. And not too close here in turn 11, but it's great to show that these guys can really battle at any part of the tarmac that you throw them onto, especially here at Tailem Bend. And we did see, I think it was last week, Thomas McMillan and Kurt Stenberg were a couple of the drivers from the ASC Championship who got involved in the AMS Oz running of the supercars racing at Phillip Island. And they had a great run there as well, so it's good to see them getting involved with some other drivers there and doing well over there. And they're currently sitting pretty well in 3rd and 4th, just behind the Ethan brothers as it stands at the moment. So we're not sure what people's tyre choices are at the moment. We can't really tell that, unfortunately, from a sim point of view, because they've all got the yellow sidewall on them. As it stands, everyone seems to be, well, as it looks, they're all in the same tyre, but we know that that's not the case. The Warren brothers, they do typically like to run a hard setup in the longer race. So what we saw last time out in Townsville was that one of the brothers elected to pit at the start of the window early in the race, like a third through the race, and run the tyres longer and then for the end. And then the other brother would do the inverse. So he'd run a longer stint to start with and then finish on a quick one, trying to get as much juice out of those hard tyres as he possibly could. Meanwhile, the other drivers down in the field do like to run a 2-stopper or maybe a 1-stopper with soft tyres. So there's a lot of different strategy choices to make with the two compounds here. And I guess we'll start to see that play out when the pit window opens up around what will be lap number 10. So got a bit of running to do before then. It's a good chance for the drivers to pull out gaps in the meantime.
Well, the pace they're running at the moment, I'd be surprised if the Warren brothers are on the hards, because they're not, they're not slow. And let's see, what are they? They're in the 16s, so I'd be very surprised if they could do 16s on the hard tyre. And everyone else seems to be doing the sort of pace that we would expect them to do, so no surprises suggest to me that everyone has opted for the softer tyre.
Yeah, now that you mention it, there's not really much of a pace disparity between some of the guys here. We're just seeing a replay of Shaun Allan behind Corey Preston as they go through turns 1 and 2. I'm just watching Brap going off the track. There's a little bit of a biff and barge there as Shaun Allan forced the issue, nearly spun Corey Preston out, but gave him a little nudge on the front to say, sorry about that, mate, here you go. Back on the right track with you, and no real harm done there. So yeah, like you said, Dayne Warren, because we know that when we've seen Dayne Warren on the hard tyres, he's normally dropped back quite dramatically at the start of the race because there's just no early pace in those tyres, but there is a lot of longevity in them. But now the pace seems to be pretty on par with what the rest of the field's doing, and the Warren brothers are doing their standard fare of pulling a gap at the front and running with it. We've got a local yellow. Oh, it's Alex Cattle who spun at turn 10, and he has dropped back to 13th place. What a shame for him.
Yeah, I just saw his name dropping down the timesheet, so we'll catch a replay of what happened to Alex Cattle. He's done it all by himself, unfortunately, and that has dropped him. That's kind of undone all the hard work he did in qualifying, but there's a long way to go in this race, and that's put that down to experience, I suppose. Brody Steen benefited from that, went up a position into 9th place.
We've already got a stopper. Steve Warwick has come into the pits, and like we've seen Steve Warwick do in some of the past few rounds, he's missing his bonnet. So he may have been caught up in an incident somewhere and caught some damage, unfortunately. So he's had to come into the pits to repair that. So that's his compulsory pit stop out of the way. But with 27 laps still to run in the race, I don't think he's going to get there on the one set of tyres.
He is going to need to pit again. So that's probably for damage. I don't think that was a scheduled stop. It's very early in the race. Dayne Warren starting to pull away a little bit from Ethan Warren at this stage. The gap out to about half a second. We saw it was much closer than that before.
Ethan Warren's definitely still keeping touch at the moment, and once they come into the pits, of course, that could flip things on its head, because you can make up a couple of spots there if you would like to. no one else is going to really be pitting at this stage yet. As I was saying earlier, we won't really be seeing any pit stops occurring until around the lap 10 mark, perhaps a little tiny bit earlier for some of the guys on two-stop strategies. Here's what happened to Steve Warwick.
Yeah, behind David Nenadic, but I don't think that was anything to do with David Nenadic. Steve just got hung up on the curb, I think, and just lost it. Well, that's the tricky corner. That's the one we were talking about in qualifying. And straight into the wall, found the wall, lost his bonnet. And that was a long journey to get back to the racetrack.
A couple of nice battles happening down in the pack, as well as Dayne Warren and Ethan Warren, who are still leading 1 and 2 at the front of the field. We've got Shaun, Allan and Kurt Stenberg in a great little battle for the final podium spot at the moment. And behind them, they're actually for 4th and 5th with Thomas McMillan in third,
Shaun's got that position reasonably recently because he was behind Kurt.
He was, yeah. So he's just made that up, and they've swapped positions from where they started the race. So they've both got pretty equal pace, as they've been around the same amount of lap times lately in the past few laps. So that's a battle that should rage on. And we're just seeing what happened here. It was actually down at turn 1. And it's a classic block pass up the inside. Great. Oh, a little bit of contact there, actually.
But that was the move that Kurt couldn't quite get done on Shaun last week because Shaun was so strong under brakes. And so it's going to be Shaun leading that battle at the moment. And let's see if Kurt can respond. But at the moment, the gap is about 7/10 of a second, Shaun to the good. How far up the road is Thomas McMillan? 5 seconds. There's a fair bit of margin to be made up there, I think, if Shaun wants to get up further.
Colin Warwick down in P6 is doing a bit of moving and shaking as well. He's up 4 spots from where he started in 10th, so he's doing a great job at the moment recovering from where he started. He'd just gotten past Corey Preston and Zach Baker when I was looking at him earlier, and he's already pulling a decent gap of around about 7/10 of a second on those guys as well, so he's in some clear air. And he's got some good pace behind him as well, and that Warwick Racing ZB Commodore. So
Corey Preston and Zach Baker just can't seem to find a part of the racetrack where the other one isn't being occupied by.
Well, they seem to be a lot more civil this time around. Touch wood, which is good to see.
Hope it stays that way.
Indeed.
So currently, Dayne Warren would win the championship if it was to finish as it is right now, because Shaun Allan needs to outscore Dayne Warren by quite a few points. What was the margin you said?
35 points is what he needs to outscore him by. So he's quite way off that. He would have to. Shaun Allan would have to win the race, and Dayne Warren would have to finish 5th or lower, based on my quick calculations. I haven't confirmed that, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it's going to be. Little darling, as Darryl Braithwaite would say.
Well, they were. Dayne Warren was nice enough to join our Apex Rear Wing Horses race that you and I commentated on earlier in the year.
Oh, I forgot all about that. Jeez.
Just to that sort of reminded me of that very, very exciting moment in history. That Dayne Warren was, if I'm not mistaken, victorious in all of those races.
We have a lot of fun down at Apex Rear Wing. Keep an eye on that Facebook page as well, folks, because once this season's wrapped up, or even a little bit before that, maybe, we'll be getting underway for an Apex Rear Wing season with some fantastic drivers and automobilistas such as Xeris, Goofball Antics, a lot of those other guys as well. Sam Smith as well, fantastic driver. We have a lot of fun over there. Myself, Stairs, and Madbird in the commentary booth, and we'd love if you can come and join us there. We put on some great broadcasts there as well. Along with what we do here at Automobilista Supercars. So let's just see. It's a good chance to take stock take, actually, before we start getting into the pit stops. So Dayne Warren leads the race. Ethan Warren is currently second with a gap of 1.2 seconds. So Dayne Warren's pulling away at the front. Thomas McMillan is in a pretty lonely third place with 5 seconds either side of him at the moment. So pretty decent gaps ahead and behind. Shaun Allan, who's the only driver who can challenge Dayne Warren for the championship, is sitting in P4 with Kurt Stenberg a little bit behind him, 1.6 seconds in fact in P5. Colin Warwick's getting pretty close to the back of Kurt Stenberg as a matter of fact in P6 and could make his way up a further spot from the 4 he's already made up since the start. Corey Preston sits in 7th ahead of Zach Baker, those two engaging in some fisticuffs, for lack of a better word, in race 1 as they get pretty close to turn 6. Brody Steen, who was second in race 2, is struggling a bit more in race 1, but obviously once strategy plays out, it might be interesting to see if he can make his way up the grid a little bit further. benefited from a fortunate safety car from his strategy point of view. But he's languishing, unfortunately, down in 9th at the moment, the race on Oz Mustang is. David Nenadic, having started at the back of the grid, is up to 10th. He's made up 4 spots. And RSM Latino is behind him in 11th position, not too far behind. Alex Cattle, who started 7th, had an unfortunate spin at turn 10 earlier in the race, and is sitting in 12th spot at the moment, with Brapp behind him in 13th, and Steve Warwick in 14th position, bringing up the rear after that accident earlier. We're just on lap 10 now, and I imagine this first round of pit stops is not too far away, Stairs.
Yeah, we'll be keeping a keen eye on the pit entry. We've had one pit caller, and that's the man on your screen right now, Steve Warwick, who I think might still be carrying a little bit of damage from that crash a little bit earlier on that turn 5. Not the first person to go into the wall on the exit of that corner, but certainly the first man in the pits in this particular race. You mentioned during that stock take that Kurt Stenberg is coming under a bit of pressure from Colin Warwick, so let's have a little bit of a look at that battle at the moment. Kurt Stenberg set a 1:18.7 on the previous lap. Colin Warwick was about a tenth, almost 0.2 of a second faster than that, so Kurt's got his work cut out here to hold on to that 5th place position.
We've just seen the first person bite into the pits. It is Dayne Warren, who's peeled in on lap number 10, and he is the first driver to take his compulsory pit stop. I'm just seeing if anyone's chasing him in. No one yet. So Ethan Warren and Thomas McMillan are still out on track so far. Shaun Allan, I think he made a dummy into the pit lane, but he's not pitting this time around. And no one else seems to be coming in. So Dayne Warren pitting earlier than most of the field around him seems to be doing thus far.
Let's see if we can pick up a replay of that Shaun Allan. Oh, we're not looking at Shaun Allan. Yeah, here's Shaun Allan. Did he dummy?
I think he just got a little bit of runoff on the exit there, and it may have been a little bit over dramatic, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it's not the sort of games that Shaun tends to play, and also the gap between himself and Kurt Stenberg is probably big enough that Kurt would have enough time to react to anything like that. But we're seeing now that Dayne Warren has dropped down to, can't find him, there he is, 13th on the racetrack, and he's, unfortunately for him, dropped out just behind Brapp, so he's got a bit of traffic to clear, and that may well just be the opportunity that Ethan needs to close up a little bit.
Ethan's ducking to the pits right now, so we'll see what that means in terms of traffic. Ideally, Ethan Warren will have the benefit of not having traffic in front of him with having clear air, as Dayne Warren was deposited in the path of Brapp, of course, so he may well come out in front, but that's dependent on his tyre temperatures when he gets back out on track, and we're just seeing a few other guys peel in. I think that's RSM Latino. No, it is Corey Preston who's coming into the pits as well, so Ethan Warren and Corey Preston are currently sitting in the lane as it stands, and the delta seems to be around 41 seconds because it is a decent length pit lane, coupled with a speed limit of 40 kilometers an hour, and RSM Latino is indeed coming into the pits now. So 3 drivers in the lane as it stands, and this will be interesting to see what Ethan Warren does in terms of his position on track. And I think Steve Warwick is coming into the pits once again. So there goes Dayne Warren, and he's actually done quite better than I thought he was going to. I thought the gap between the two was going to be a lot closer when they emerged from the pits, but it is now 3.5 seconds at least between those two.
We've got Brapp in the pits as well, so RSM Latino, Corey Preston's on the move, and the gap is 4 seconds from Dayne Warren to Ethan Warren, and that has left Thomas McMillan in the lead of this race. So let's see if he comes into the pits this lap to serve his pit stop. No, he stays out. He stays out. Behind him, Shaun Allan is going to continue around. We've seen him do long stints before, so I wonder if they're trying to eke their way out to that magical lap 16 and do it on a one-stop. The Dayne and Ethan Warren drivers have committed now to a 2-stop, having come in when they did.
Both of the ZB guys are in the pits now. Zach Baker has been followed closely by his teammate David Nenadic, and they're both coming in for their stops now.
So that means they would be committed to a 2-stop as well. Dayne Warren's just set the fastest lap of the race.
1:16.62, about 0.3 of a second off the qualifying pace we were seeing, which is still bloody quick for a race pace, I have to say.
Yeah, that's only a few tenths of a second off the pole times that we've been seeing. That is absolutely remarkable.
Not too shabby at all.
I'm very interested here to see if we see anyone extend to about lap 16, because that is a magic number. That'll mean that a one-stop is possible, potentially. And maybe that could explain some of the sort of out-of-position laps we saw in the qualifying session to determine the top 10. Thomas McMillan has stayed out. Shaun Allan has stayed out.
Trying. It looks like if this rate keeps up until lap 16, then I think a few guys are going to try the one-stop. But it is a bit early to say, of course, so we'll have to see what happens with that, because those first few guys have stayed out, as has Brody Steen. So we don't really know what's going to happen just yet, but they may be running a little bit longer. I'll take a look at their lap times to see if their tyres are falling off, because these tyres tend to be on a little bit of a cliff in terms of their performance. So
they're tantalisingly close. Lap 14, they only have to make it 2 more laps, and then potentially they'll have the benefit of all of that saved time.
So I'm just trying to look at his recent laps, and they're floating around 17, 18, 18, 18, 18, 19. So he's only very slowly been dropping time off from the 117 pace he was doing at the start of the race. So not losing a massive amount of time thus far, and he may well be able to run it out to lap number 16, but we'll see what happens. He's keeping a pretty steady gap as it stands to the drivers behind him, Shaun Allan and Kurt Stenberg, and he's still staying out now as he crosses the line to start lap number 15.
Yep, and I think we're seeing... Do we see Shaun Allan come in?
We did not.
No.
We didn't see Kurt Stenberg either, so everyone's staying out there.
So they're definitely trying. And the lap times they're doing are 19s. And the Warren brothers are in the 16s. So they're 2 to 3 seconds a lap faster. There is enough time left in this race for the two-stop to be the fastest strategy if your name is, if your last name is Warren.
Indeed.
So it is going to be... It's very interesting here. Is the one-stop worth it for the time you lose?
And it's going to be very close based on the margins we're seeing at the moment as we reach the halfway point of the race, because this is going to put Thomas McMillan about 20 seconds behind Dayne Warren or thereabouts, as they get to the end of their pit window, and with another 40 seconds needing to be chewed out of Dayne Warren and Ethan Warren's times doing the two-stoppers, that means they have to be able to claw back 20 seconds of time over the course of 16 laps, which isn't too unachievable for those guys. It sounds like a lot.
I think Thomas's tyres are finished. Did you see him through the penultimate corner? He was tiptoeing. I think he's going to come in. He's not quite made it. He's not made the distance. 15 laps is just not enough, and Shaun Allan's coming in as well. Kurt Stenberg has stayed out. So Shaun Allan and Thomas McMillan have gone 15 laps, which is 1 lap less than you need to. Kurt Stenberg potentially could have put himself in the catbird seat, because if he can get around this lap, is going to have gone 16 laps, and that's the exact number of laps that he needs to have done to get there. But look, he's being challenged by Brapp a lap down, trying to get his lap back because his lap times are so slow, down in the 19s, whereas Brapp did a 21 last time. I think Kurt might have just hit the cliff.
I don't think that the one-stop strategy is going to work for these guys, unfortunately, because Kurt Stenberg, as you said, is down a massive amount on his pace. So Thomas McMillan may not have come in at the right time, but compared to Kurt Stenberg, he certainly has, because Stenny is out there at the moment. Well, not Stenny, Kurt Stenberg, I should say, because Stenny, of course, is quite a different racer. Kurt Stenberg is down a lot on his current pace. I'm just trying to find a list of his current lap times. His last lap was a 19.961, which is about on par for what he was normally doing with his last few laps, but he's red in the first sector of this lap by
28.4.
6 tenths of a second. He was down in his first sector, so he scrubbed off a lot of time. It has come to lap 16, and he's ducking into the pits to pick up a new set of rubbers. So that will be the similar fare for his second stint of the race. He does have that extra lap under his belt to play with in terms of his tyre life. Thomas McMillan and Shaun Allan do not. And Dayne Warren is now going to come across to take the lead of the race once again.
Did you see the gap? Did you see the gap? Dayne Warren had it down to 12 seconds before Kurt came into the pits, and it was 25 seconds about 2 laps ago. That's quickly
unbelievable.
the Warren brothers were eating into the gap, held by those trying to make the one-stop work. Thomas McMillan's going to come now, and I think he's going to end up ahead of Kurt Stenberg. Well, he was actually ahead of him as well. Anyway, so let's see where he's actually in relation to Shaun Allan. Kurt Stenberg's on the move.
Shaun
And-
Allan's teammate Brody Steen is in the box as well at the moment,
goes
and Shaun
Shaun
Allan
Allan.
just blows past.
Yeah, that's because he's got the benefit of those fresher tyres for a single lap. And through 2 goes Colin Warwick. So Kurt Stenberg's got a lot of work to do. But as far as his battle with Shaun Allan and Thomas McMillan, he may find himself ahead of those because he's made them last that long. He's going to be ahead of them there. But I just don't think that this strategy is going to be enough to beat the Warren brothers at this stage.
No, it'll be 2 different races we're seeing here. The race between the Warren brothers on the 2-stopper and all the 1-stoppers on their own unique strategies in terms of what lap they decided to come in. Because while Thomas McMillan and Shaun Allan and Colin Warwick did pit a little bit earlier, 1 lap earlier, and preserve their tyres and preserve their pace that little bit longer, that's going to give them 2 more laps of slow pace at the end of the race, where they're going to drop off dramatically. I don't think they'll be able to do it either.
We've seen them have punctures in the past, and I think that sort of thing is going to stop them from being able to do this. I reckon if I was Thomas McMillan, from this point onwards, he pit on lap 15, I would just divide that second half of the race into 2 and do 2 short stints on softs from this point onwards. That's the best damage limitation from this point of the race.
It's not an ideal way to run things, and you really have to do calculations on the fly as a driver, because the pit stop is going to take 41 seconds or thereabouts. So if you think you're going to lose 41 seconds of time with the lack of pace that you're going to have from those tyres, I'd say absolutely go for it.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. 41 seconds is a hell of a long time in terms of losing time on laps, because when these tyres fall off the cliff, you're losing about 3 seconds a lap. I'm seeing at the start originally, and that grows as the tyres wear out to the point where you get the puncture. So the total time he may lose from having old tyres and having to slow down to manage them may only be around 7 or 8 seconds, maybe 9 seconds of his total race pace. If he takes another pit stop, that'll be a 40-second drop, and I think that's something he can't afford to do. If you've started the one-stop strategy, you have to commit to it at this point, really.
Kurt's in-lap was comparable to Thomas McMillan's in-lap. They weren't too different. Within the same sort of second or so for each sector. So Kurt just did a better job of managing his tyres than Thomas did, I think, because Thomas clearly couldn't go that extra lap.
No, and it makes me wonder how well he's actually going to be able to manage those tyres in his second stint. He may indeed have a puncture, and that's not really something I'd consider. If you have a puncture, it's effectively a retirement from the race, because you've got no pace at all. You're going to fall back behind the whole field, and you're definitely going to lose those 40 seconds for sure. So he may even have to take a quick splash for a fresh set of boots a few laps out from the finish, depending on how he can manage his tyres from then. It'll be a challenge for all these individual drivers to make sure they can drive cautiously, a little bit of lift and coast, a little bit less speed through the corners, less load on their tyres as well. And a few of them will have plug-ins and screen readouts that show how much temperature is going through those tyres and what wear levels they're sitting at. So they'll have the figures in front of them. Whether they can use them effectively is another question entirely. We're just watching Corey Preston at the moment, staying ahead of Zach Baker with not a huge amount of dents appearing on either of those cars at the moment.
Yeah, they're both on a two-stopper, pitted on lap 11 and 12 respectively. Zach Baker on lap 12, Corey Preston on lap 11. So similar pit strategy to the Warren brothers for these two.
They could stand to improve quite a bit then. They could, if they're on the two-stop strategy, they could definitely leapfrog Thomas McMillan. They could be battling for the last podium spot.
Quite possibly. Yeah, if Thomas McMillan, and I think that's quite a distinct possibility here, if Thomas McMillan can't make those tyres last to the end of the race, then this is definitely the spot, the fight for the final spot on the podium. Assuming that Kurt Stenberg doesn't get ahead of them when they make their stop. So this is all on here. It could go any number of different ways.
It's going to be a pretty hairy battle for the guys from 6th to 8th as well. That is Shaun Allan, Colin Warwick and Kurt Stenberg. They have those differences in strategy we were talking about earlier, but Shaun and Colin especially are in a nuts to butts battle at the moment. The gap between the two is academic. It's about 0.3 of a second, and you can see them in the shot when they're on screen together. And that battling is going to be eating into their tyres a little bit more as they try and attack and defend a little bit more vigorously to improve their positions on one another. So keep an eye on that one. I think these guys here that we're looking at, Corey Preston and Zach Baker, because they got that extra pit stop up their sleeves, that's going to make it a little bit easier for them if they can maintain that pace throughout the race. But not sure how it's going to look so far.
So Dayne Warren has extended his lead to 4 seconds, and he's just eking that out little bit by little bit. The last lap round was a 17.5 from both of the Warren brothers, but Dayne Warren's just a little bit lower, Ethan Warren's just a little bit higher, and that's just been the trend throughout the race. He hasn't been taking huge chunks out of Ethan.
Oh no, it's happened again at turn 1. Corey Preston and Zach Baker have made contact, and Zach Baker has gone around. That didn't seem to be as intentional as the stuff we were seeing last race. We'll just have a look at a replay now.
So this was Zach Baker going down the inside at turn 1, and yeah, no, that was that wasn't a deliberate move, but it certainly won't improve either one of their moods.
It wasn't as blatant as the first race, I'll say that much, but at the same time, you've got to look at what Corey Preston's doing, and when you see a driver going in hot and spinning out in front of you, you've got to give them a bit of room to make that mistake, and you can't really pile into them like that.
Well, Zach was giving him a lot of space, and Corey just, well, yeah, I don't know.
It's a tough one. I don't want to make too many assumptions and too many opinions about it, because that's most of the steward's job.
Yeah,
Dayne and Ethan Warren are in the box now. They're taking their second stop on lap 22.
Well, that's about when we would have expected that to happen. They made their first pit stops around lap 11, 12. So Dayne's on the move much earlier, as we would expect. He had a 4-second lead. Now Ethan's off the jacks, and let's see where they pop out, because this will be kind of relative based on Kurt Stenberg, because we expect him to only make one pit stop, but it all depends on the pace they have to the end of the race. So Ethan Warren has come out in 7th place, Dayne in 6th, and he's just behind Kurt Stenberg.
Well, as it sits at the moment, if they somehow are able to hold on to their current positions, the championship battle should drag on to the next race, I think. I'm not sure. I think it's pretty narrow. Because it's 138 points for Shaun Allan compared to what would be 102 points.
Corey Preston just made a pit stop as well.
Corey Preston has pitted indeed, so he's fallen back off this battle as well, of course, being a two-stopper like the Warren brothers.
Oh, Steve Warwick has blown his engine up. So that happened down there at turn 1.
Turn 1, it is indeed turn 1, and if he can... He's got the car off the track already, so there won't be a safety car, thankfully. So he is a DNF, though, unfortunately. We're just seeing a replay now, and he's just detonated his motor, so he may have just plucked the wrong gear on the brakes.
Corey Preston was coming out the pits in front of him. I wonder if he just panicked and slammed down the gears a little bit too quickly, and that's just destroyed his engine.
That could very well be what's happened there, unfortunately, which is not something we like to see. We do have 13 runners left in the race now. And Brapp is currently bringing up the rear of the field at the moment in 13th. We're just seeing a battle here between Dayne Warren and Kurt Stenberg for what is currently P5 on track, and Dayne Warren sneaks through in turn 3 and gets that done.
Yeah, well, he's not having to manage his tyres. He's got a fresh set of soft tyres. I think Kurt might have gone for hard. I'm not sure. We'll have to ask him if he does end up making it onto the podium. But either way, he's either got a very slow hard tyre, or he's managing a soft tyre masterfully to make it to the end of this race on one pit stop. But Dayne has no such issues, and the two-stop seemingly the better strategy tonight.
Well, the goal for the moment is for Dayne Warren to get up into P1 and win this race. Let's see what he has to do. The gap between himself and Thomas McMillan is about 12.2 seconds, and he has 10 laps to do it. 9 laps to do it now, as we see David Nenadich, Zach Baker, that is, ducking in for his second stop of the race. Also on a two-stopper. Evidently not working as well as Dayne Warren's two-stopper is, unfortunately for him. And that gap's already come down to 11.6 seconds for Dayne Warren and Thomas McMillan. So he's plugging away as fast as he possibly can. He'll have to dispatch the 2 cars in front of him, which he may even start doing this lap, that being Colin Warwick in third at the moment and Shaun Allan in second. So this is where we start to see Dayne Warren really shining, and just how able he is to claw back huge deficits of time in really short amounts of laps. It's incredible to watch sometimes, isn't it, Stairs?
It is, but I also feel like Thomas is on the hard tyre because he's not as close to his qualifying time as Dayne is to his qualifying time. So that, you know, it must be something like that to explain that complete difference in pace. Anyway, we've got a good battle on between Shaun Allan, Colin Warwick, and Dayne Warren's already found himself up into that battle for second place. He's just dispatched Colin Warwick, and Shaun Allan is the next car up the road. Meanwhile, behind them, Ethan Warren is dispatching Kurt Stenberg, or at least about to.
They snuck up while we weren't even watching, and I think Dayne Warren's almost going to have a look into turn 1, but he's a bit far back at the moment. So side by side between Ethan Warren and Kurt Stenberg. Ethan Warren will have the line and the position, and he's already pulled in front, by the way, by the time they get to turn 1. So that's 5th place so far for Ethan Warren, looking to push a little bit further.
A different battle when you've got 2 Warren brothers on fresh tyres and a bunch of other people trying to make other tyres we think could be hard tyres last. That's great racing from Shaun Allan and Dayne Warren, giving each other the space and not an inch more.
Great stuff between those two, side by side through turn 5. A spectacular part of the track to do that at, and they held themselves on their lines beautifully, had great respect for one another, and that's exactly what we want to see because it produces great moments like that. And that's Dayne Warren up into P2 with only 9.5 seconds up the road to Thomas McMillan, who, as you said, is quite a bit down on his ideal pace in that Pleb Sim Sport ZB Commodore.
Yeah, last lap 18.5 from Thomas McMillan. He did a 17 flat in the shootout. So
wasn't much better that time out either. It was an 18.6, so he's not scrubbing off a massive amount of time just yet. There's still a little bit of life in those tyres that he has on at the moment, but the cliff is fast approaching, and that may well cause some issues if he doesn't get passed by Dayne Warren before that, of course.
Well, Dayne Warren is also fast approaching. He did a 17.2. That's positively glacial by his standards, but he doesn't have any. He doesn't have any rush here. He's in the box seat to take this race win. It would be his first race win around this circuit, and what a timely time to grab that win were it to occur, because that would mean that he would wrap up the championship with 1 round remaining on his 21st birthday. That's a fairy tale if ever I've heard one.
That's a pretty great present if you ask me. And as I was saying earlier, it really frees up it really takes the pressure off leading into Bathurst, and it allows you to just focus put all your focus into that one race and see what you can do, and it's going to be fantastic to watch when they take on. Now we've got a battle for third at the moment. Ethan Warren has already made his way up there, and he's gotten past Shaun Allan, so the Warren brothers are now sitting second and third as Ethan Warren gets up the inside of Shaun Allan into turn 11, and he's got the lead on him and the lead of that pack into the main straight. So Ethan Warren, I think all the drivers have now taken all their stops, except Thomas McMillan, if he has to possibly take tyres at the end to stop himself from blowing out those tyres.
I reckon Shaun Allan will stop again.
I wouldn't be surprised if he does. And that's a great pass from Ethan Warren. Just a classic block pass through turn 11. Easy as you like. And he's up into P3, but he's got a gap to his brother of about 4 seconds, and that's going to be pretty tough to claw back. So I think he'll just be sitting pretty in third place. His main challenge is going to be to see if he can catch up to Thomas McMillan, because I imagine Dayne Warren should be able to dispatch him pretty soon. The gap between those two is 7 seconds now, with 7 laps to go. So can Dayne Warren pull 1 second a lap on Thomas McMillan?
Easily. He was down into the 16s on the previous lap, so he took 1.5 seconds out of Thomas McMillan's lead on the previous lap, so that's coming down very, very quickly indeed. And so with 5 laps remaining, that would give Dayne Warren a couple of laps to have a go at Thomas McMillan, assuming that Thomas McMillan didn't need to stop again.
So if we were sponsored by AWS services like Formula One is, we would get a whatever they call it, a battle indicator, and it would say that Dayne Warren is in striking distance within the next, I would say, 4 laps. Passing difficulty, easy. And then the challenge is for Ethan Warren to see if he can catch up and get Thomas McMillan before the race is over. And that'll be a really exciting one to watch.
I think Thomas, at this point, he's gone this far into the race. He's going to try, isn't he? He's going to try and make those tyres last. I very much think the odds are against him, but we saw this happen to Dayne in Townsville, where we thought he had the race in the bag, but his tyres fell apart on the last lap, and that gifted the win to Ethan. But, well, Thomas McMillan, he's surprised us a few times this year. There was a race in Darwin where he made tyres last longer than anyone thought he would be able to, so let's see if he can do it tonight.
That gap has come down dramatically though. He's already down to 4.3 seconds on Dayne Warren, and he isn't even losing too much time in his laps. It was a 1:18.5 last time out. His sector splits aren't looking awful, although he is losing about 0.8 of a second on his last lap, so he has dropped back quite a bit on what he normally can do. When he crosses the line, it would be a 1:19.3. So he may have actually hit that cliff on his tyres right about now, and he's got 4 laps left to do on them.
Well, second, if he could manage to hold on to it, would still be a really good result. I mean, I don't think that first is remotely a possibility given how fast Dayne Warren is catching up to him, but you never know. You never know. Another one with a question mark over his head is Colin Warwick. He pit on the same lap as Shaun Allan, which is lap 15. Kurt Stenberg, out of those one-stoppers, is the only one I'm sure can make it to the end.
I think so. I'm not really sure what the lap times are looking like for Colin Warwick, Shaun Allan and Kurt Stenberg. I'll take a look at that to see what we're looking like at the moment. Shaun Allan hasn't fallen off a cliff just yet. He's doing 1:18.8, same sort of times as Thomas McMillan. Colin Warwick's last time was a 1:20.34. Which followed a 1:19.7, a 1:19.2, and a 1:19.9. So Colin Warwick's tyres have definitely seen better days, I would say. And Kurt Stenberg is on 1:19 flat times as it stands at the moment, although his last lap was struck off, and he did also have another lap time struck off just before. So that's at least 2 track cuts. That is only just 2 track cuts so far for Kurt Stenberg. He's got a few more up his sleeve. I don't think we're going to see too many more issues in terms of track cuts for the rest of these guys. But Colin Warwick's pace seems to be the worst, and we can see now, I'm just having a look, he's got Kurt Stenberg all over the back of him. We're just looking on board from Dayne Warren, who very clearly has Thomas McMillan in his sights.
And let's just see that battle between Colin Warwick and Kurt Stenberg. They're both tiptoeing to try and make their tyres last. And I don't think Colin's going to fight that one too hard. Kurt Stenberg's going to go down the inside, but will he get it stopped? He sails wide of the apex. Colin Warwick will try and get the switch back, and he gets the inside for turn 2. Kurt Stenberg will try and drive around the outside, and it looks like he's got that one done. Meanwhile, Dayne Warren has been continuing to take a huge amount of time out of race leader Thomas McMillan, and he's already on the rear bumper.
Just shows how much more pace Dayne Warren has had over this race. But Thomas McMillan has tried his absolute darndest to make that one-stopper work, and he's with lap 30 of 32 that we're on at the moment, he's looking not too bad so far. His last lap pace is actually 1:18.9. So he hasn't fallen off the cliff as much as I would have thought. I think he just made an error on the last lap. So he hasn't gone off the cliff just yet, but now he's going to have to defend for his absolute life. But it's going to be super hard to defend down this main straight because Dayne Warren's got the draft up his sleeve. Thomas McMillan has already parked his car on the inside. He's not giving Dayne Warren any room on the inside. He's going to have to force him to go the long way around. And I think Dayne Warren's going to do that sort of easily.
He's done it. Him. Oh, that has ended in tears for Thomas McMillan. He's not going to make his tyres last now because, unfortunately, that has completely destroyed his chances. He's down there in 3rd place, so he was potentially going to keep Ethan Warren behind him, but now that chance has evaded him. Dayne Warren bump drafted Thomas McMillan down the pit straight, and if he hadn't done that, the pass would have been a lot easier, and Thomas McMillan would probably still be facing the right direction.
Yeah, I think Dayne Warren's just a little bit too impatient with that move there, because Thomas McMillan was having a grand old time of it, trying to defend for the life of him. I thought it was fantastic. It was just parking his car on the inside. Dayne Warren probably didn't have to go too aggressively there. He still had a lot of time left to get past him, and he would have had ample opportunity to do such a thing. But it is Dayne Warren who is leading the race, leading the championship, and as it stands at the moment, he is going to take out this season's championship if things stay the way they are at the moment. We've got 1 lap left to run as Dayne Warren rounds the final corner on the penultimate lap. Lap 32 about to get underway. It's Dayne Warren leading the way with his brother Ethan Warren just behind him by the gap of about 3.5 seconds in P2. Thomas McMillan recovering from that spin to P3. He's got lap traffic just ahead of him.
Yeah,
and Shaun Allan is behind him by a gap of just under 2 seconds. So there may still be some moves on in the latter stages of the race for these guys.
They've all made fools of me unless they completely drop it on this last lap, because they've all made it to the end of this race. Thomas McMillan, Shaun Allan, Kurt Stenberg. Colin Warwick's hit the cliff. He's down 7 seconds behind Kurt Stenberg now. But apart from that, these guys have really done a good job in the tyre management stakes.
Yeah, they've done a fantastic job here to be able to pull out such consistent lap times and be able to do such a good job holding off each other. But I think Thomas McMillan's a lot slower now.
I think Shaun Allan might steal this podium.
Is all over him like a cheap suit, and he's smelling a podium right here. He's smelling his backside. He's getting real close to it, as a matter of fact. Trying to go around the outside in turn number 8, but he's got a little bit more time to pass. This is where the battle is, but I think Dayne Warren is going to be pretty close. He's got one more corner to go. We'll watch these guys for just a couple seconds longer now. There's not much they can really do here. I think Shaun Allan's going to have a look, but Dayne Warren's on the main straight.
We're going to watch Dayne Warren cross the line to win the championship and the race. His first win in the Bend, and he is the champion. Shaun Allan could do nothing, but he will nab the podium at the death from Thomas McMillan. They're both squirming their way out of these corners, and they've managed to make their tyres last longer than Kurt Stenberg had to make his last. But Kurt Stenberg, that extra lap in the middle of the race on those worn tyres, cost him those spots, and that was an excellent tyre strategy race.
Fantastic racing there. It was great to see that strategy play out, and Kurt Stenberg did very well to hold on there. It was good to see Shaun Allan and Thomas McMillan doing so well, proving us wrong. Colin Warwick, meanwhile, his tyres fell off quite a bit of a cliff there, and he finishes P6, not too far ahead of Brodie Steen, it has to be said. So Brodie Steen crosses the line in 7th position, a fair bit down from his podium in the first race. Corey Preston crosses the line in 8th with Zach Baker 9th, and Alex Cattle looking to round out the top 10.
Well, we have crowned a champion. Dayne Warren now has, we're still sort of calculating what the gap is, but it is well over 300 points, with just 300 points remaining in the championship for the final round in Bathurst.
I'm just putting the last of the positions in now. David Nenadich finishing 11th with RSM Latino a lap down. Brap finishing 13th. And we have our final points for the end of the round. And it is Dayne Warren who has won the championship with a gap of 355 points over Shaun Allan. And that championship is well and truly secured. The only thing that can really influence it now is massive penalties that may, for some strange reason, fall the way of Dayne Warren. The only thing I can really think of he'd be penalised for is that tap on Thomas McMillan there that we saw a few laps ago in turn 1. But it's not going to be a penalty to the tune of 55 points at least. And there it is, Dayne Warren. He's the champion, and he well and truly knows it. That is a massive set of 11s down the main straight, and he's earned those skids well and truly. Congratulations, Dayne Warren. You are the champion.
Well, you said he knows it. I wonder if he does know it, or if he's just celebrating his birthday and this win. Because a lot of these drivers don't tend to know the point situation when you tell them. But maybe this night was different, being the penultimate round.
I reckon he would have had it in mind. Look, with the amount of time this skid's gone on for, it's hard to say that he doesn't know that he's the champion. If he was Russell Engel, he'd be opening the side door and he'd be hanging out the side of it, waving to the crowd at the moment. That's a burnout for the ages, that is.
Absolutely. Nothing left on those tyres at the end of the race. Maybe that's why he opted for the two-stop strategy, so he'd have something left to do the skids with at the end of the race.
Bless him. Had something in the tank just for us. We'll have to confirm that with him when he jumps in the box, hopefully for an interview later on.
Well, we're still waiting for him to come in because, of course, we're still watching him out on track making his celebrations. But it looks like that's come to an end, and so has tonight's events. And that is going to be it for us for a little while, because we've got a over a month now until the next round at Bathurst, as we wait for our drivers to come in and have a bit of a chat with us. But we saw a lot of action tonight, didn't we?
We did. There was a hell of a lot of action. Some good, some bad. Some of it on-track racing, some of it strategy with tyre selection, a lot of it enthralling. It was great fun to watch here at this Bend West layout. It was the first time the drivers had visited this layout, and they took to it like ducks to water. It was great to watch. We saw some really masterful racing between some of these guys, and the commentary box is starting to fill up with blokes all over the joint. Stairs, take us away with the interviews.
All right. Well, let's have a chat to our winner from race number 1 and podium sitter at the death, nabbing that pole position, that third place position from Thomas McMillan at the end of race 2. Shaun, Allan, great job tonight. And how did you find the racing in this the Bend West circuit?
Maybe. There we go.
Sorry, you weren't expecting me to cut to you first.
No, but my mic was playing up. Anyway, yeah, thanks for that. It was a bit of a weird one. Again, safety car helped us race 1. Pitted straight up for softs and just drove on. Brody, unfortunately, made his mistake whilst he was in what would have been the lead, and we got past, but we're still able to get that form finish. And yeah, that second race, I had no idea what people were going to do. I wanted to try the one stop and go on the softs. And yeah, I was able to just keep them on just enough to get McMillan right at the end there. And
well, unfortunately, it looks like the Drivers' Championship has got away from you today, but certainly the Teams' Championship sealed for Race on Oz. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, look, stoked. That's 2 for 2 from us now. So it's pretty good. With Dayne being here all year, there was no chance really of getting the Drivers' Championship, but my aim was to get next best, which is second, so that's still on the table. So hopefully at Bathurst we can take that. But yeah, Teams Championship is next best thing, so I'm real glad we got that.
Absolutely, and the 1-2 for race 1 must have been a really good way to go on your way to sealing that.
Yeah, it was pretty special. We talked about it a couple laps before if we would do it or not, and thought we would. It's the first 1-2 we've had together for 3 years, so we're pretty excited about that one.
Yeah, some good promo screenshots at the end of that race for you.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, many congratulations, Shaun. I think your 5th win of the championship this year, and congratulations and best of luck in the next race at Bathurst.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Moving on to Brody Steen, your second place of the year, and well, as we said with Shaun, congratulations on the Teams Championship.
Thanks, it's fantastic that we could wrap it up again. It's one of our main goals for the year. It's a shame, to be honest though, it's a shame we didn't have as much competition as we'd have liked. With being the only 2-car team that turned up consistently, and we were on the pace.
Absolutely. Well, nonetheless, you can only beat the competition that is there. Today was quite a hectic race. We saw quite a bit of carnage throughout the race, but you managed to avoid it.
I'm very surprised to our results today. Yeah, I really struggle at the bend, so to end up in the effective lead of that race 1 was a bit of a surprise, and yeah, sort of choked it away, to be honest.
Oh, well, yeah, there must be a win coming your way at some stage. Congratulations on a strong result. You got to be there to take advantage of the luck, and well, second place was a good result today.
Yeah, it certainly was.
It was. Let's chat to Kurt Stenberg. Third place in race 1. Just didn't quite go your way with the strategy in race 2. How did you find tonight's events? I think we lost Kurt there.
Oh, hello, have I got you? Sorry.
Well, we got him back. Kurt?
Yeah, something was going wrong there. Race 1, saw that safety car come out and thought it's time to pit, put some softs on, see how far we can go. I reckon I probably could have won that race had there not been that incident at turn 1 with Thomas McMillan and Colin and that, and then I had damage from that point onwards, and really my goal from that point onwards was to just finish as high as I could, and I wasn't going to catch the 2 race on Oz cars.
Yeah, so the carnage at the start, the carnage on the restart, we all saw it, and it was difficult to tell who had done what to who, but how did you see it?
I'm not 100% sure, but I saw a VB car crash into a Warwick racing car that I don't believe was Colin, and then I saw a Warwick racing car backwards that I drove into that was facing the wrong way, so that's how I saw it. So yeah, very unfortunate that it cost me what I felt like I was in a chance there to win that, so yeah.
Oh, well, that would have been your second win. You got 2 wins in your championship win last year, but at this stage you can only equal that with Bathurst. I'm sure that you'll be turning your attentions to that next after this.
Yeah, I will, mate. As I say, I struggled a bit at the bend, this west layout. I'm much better at the international layout at the bend, but yeah, turning the focus now to Bathurst. We've got a bit of over a month to prepare. So yeah, really looking to see if we can win that one again. So that's my goal. To me, that's the big one. I wasn't any chance of winning the championship this year, and I'm probably not a chance of getting P2. So the goal is to win that race, and teaming up with Dayne Warren, I believe that we've got the best opportunity to do that.
Well, the champion-elect would be a good person to team up with as the defending champion. So congratulations on the podium today, and best of luck moving forward into the next race.
No worries, and thanks for everything you do once again, guys.
Many thanks indeed. Let's move along to Ethan Warren, second place in the final race. And again, you pushed Dayne a lot of the way, but it wasn't the same result as we saw from you last week with the 2 wins. It just didn't come together for you for the victory, but a strong result in race 2 today.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I struggled a bit with pace this weekend, unfortunately. Just wasn't too happy with the car, so I knew Dayne was going to be quick, and just couldn't match him. And got a bit unlucky in the first race with just messing up the strategy, so that ruined our race from that point.
Yeah, did you, with the different layout, did you miss the middle sector? Was that the part of the racetrack that you liked better from the last week's version of the circuit, or was it just, as you said, just something with the car?
I would prefer the long layout compared to the short one. Just more corners. I like the back section, the long right-handers. Yeah, it just suits my driving better, I reckon.
Well, it certainly showed in the results, but nonetheless, some good, strong pace today, just not quite enough.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Congrats to Dayne on the championship as well. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Let's turn our attention to Dayne. I believe it's your 21st birthday, Dayne. Happy birthday, first of all.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And that must be a terrific way to celebrate by nabbing the championship and your win.
It is very good. Unfortunately, I honestly wanted to get it done and over in the first race, but that interesting start sort of stopped us from doing so. But it's good to come away with it in the end anyway. I'm really happy.
Absolutely. We saw some terrific celebrations at the end with the burnouts and the donuts at the end. Did you know the point situation going in, or was it just race to win?
I had Colin and Kurt on the calculator figuring out for me. I think for race 1 I had to win and Shaun come 5th or something. Obviously that completely flipped on its head. So I think from there it was just win the second race and keep in front of Shaun, and that's pretty much confirmed. So we just based it off that, and yeah, it ended up winning the second race.
And we saw the different strategies from a lot of the guys who opted to one stop. You and Ethan both went straight for the two stop.
Yeah, well, in the past two of these sort of sprint feature rounds, I've gone for a hard soft or even a hard hard, I think, strategy. In the end, it's just too hard to manage, and anyone on a soft tyre is going to fly past you in the last couple of laps. So I thought with the pace we had over Thomas, Shaun and all that, we'd go try a two stop, and yeah, lucky or unfortunate for Thomas, he lost all his grip in the last couple of laps, and I was able to take it from him.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations once again. A fairy tale way to wrap up the title, and I guess now you'll be turning all your attention to the Bathurst race.
Yep, absolutely. Like Stenny said, it's obviously the big one everyone wants to win, and coming off the back of the Scots 1000, it's definitely one that I want to add to the resume, just for the flex, really, to have two Bathurst 1000 too. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, it sounds mighty tempting, doesn't it? We very much look forward to that. Thanks again, Dayne, for chatting to us.
Yep, thanks for everything you guys have done over the season as well. The broadcast has been excellent, and obviously a lot of my family members watch it and loved it as well. So yeah, great job.
Oh, shucks. Thanks, Dayne. Matt, let's turn back to you. Your thoughts?
Well, that was a great way to wrap up the regular season. Some fantastic racing. The strategy was really a good tantalizer, a good an entree for what we're going to see in Bathurst in terms of similar strategies like that. And obviously a reflection of how quick these guys are around pretty much any track you throw them on. It was the first time, also the only time possibly, a lot of these guys had raced on this west layout of Tailem Bend, and like I said, they took to it like a duck to water. We saw some fantastic racing all the way up and down the field, and we saw a champion crowned. And I also want to pass on massive congratulations to Dayne Warren for what was a fantastic performance, and that'll take the edge off a lot of these guys now that the championship's been wrapped up, moving into the Bathurst 1000. There are still a few championship spots that can be rearranged based on the results of the Bathurst race, but I'm just looking forward to a really great 6 hours and 1,000 kilometers of racing along with you guys and jumping in the booth with you, Stairs.
Yep, can't wait for it. It is going to be an absolute bumper broadcast. Keep an eye out on our Facebook channels, the Apex Rear Wing Facebook page, and also the Automobilist at Supercars Championship Facebook page for updates on the schedule for the Bathurst 1000. And if you'd like to get involved, hit the guys up, and we want to see a really big bumper field of cars for that race.
We certainly do. Get on the sign-ups, check the social medias, follow us on all the Facebook. asc.rocksolidmates.com is the website, and you can also go to facebook.com/Automobilista Supercars Championship for all the info. We look forward to seeing you either on the track or in the chat having a yarn with us when we're on the stream. There's the Facebook information on screen, and we can't wait to see you there, folks.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks very much indeed for your company. We'll see you in a month's time. Bye for now.